Star Trek, the next generation. You love throughout the nation. You're my favourite show. Was in every episode, you're lucky. You don't have to wait for buses. You just step into the transporter and off you boldly go. Mr. Wall's my favourite person.
We are the Org. Our mission is to assimilate Star Trek The Next Generation, Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and beer. Lots of beer.
Hello, friends!
Hello!
And welcome to bOrgCast 726, the last of Season 7. And finally, it's the last of Season 7 of Star Trek The Next Generation.
Hallelujah!
It has felt a bit like that, hasn't it? Okay, well, we have some news. And the news is quite big. Destination Star Trek is back.
Yay!
How many, 2 or 3 years ago we went?
4.
4 years ago. God, time flies. We went to it when it was held. It's held in the States as well, but it's held in Europe. More recently, it was held in Germany, but before that was London at the Excel Centre, which is not very far from where we are, just across the Thames. And you got to meet Patrick Stewart.
Yeah, he's lovely.
And we had an awesome day. It was really great
good.
fun.
Yeah.
So when we heard that it was coming to this country again, it was like, oh, excellent. And then we discovered it's in Birmingham.
But your folks don't live far from Birmingham.
Yes.
So they're having the children and we're going!
Yeah. So this is it'll be Saturday the 8th of October.
Yeah.
We shall be travelling up and experiencing Destination Star Trek at the Birmingham NEC. In terms of guests, they've got the Shat signed up already. And more interestingly for us, they've got Frakes and Surtees signed up. And they've got both Daxes.
Yep. And Alexander Siddig.
Yep.
And Walter Koenig.
Oh, yes. Right. So, yes. And what happened last time was there were more people that signed on a bit later on.
Yes.
So it's expensive, it has to be said. It ain't a cheap day out. If you go for the whole weekend, it's absolutely cripplingly expensive.
You can buy these stupidly expensive tickets, but I mean, it's still cheaper for your normal tickets. It's now cheaper than the snooker, which probably there's like maybe one listener that could reach, maybe ish, if I'm bloody lucky. But anyway,
it's also cheaper than going to a football match.
Yeah. It will cost us more than the price of just the ticket because we're going to want to go to a talk.
Yep.
But we're going to see when the talks are in terms of time and also who's going to be at them, and then we will then choose a talk and book on it.
And this time it's my turn to get a picture with somebody. Yeah. And I'm hoping maybe possibly Marina Sirtis if I can build up the courage.
Yet you're not allowed to bury your face in her boobies.
That isn't going to happen. What's more likely to happen is I just completely wimp out of going anywhere near her. But anyway, we shall see. So there we are. That's something to get rather excited about.
Yeah. So if you wanted to meet us and you either thought it was worthwhile doing because you'd get to go to a convention, or you were thinking of going anyway, or maybe you're in the local area, it's Saturday the 8th of October that we're going. You could always go and book tickets and we'll be there and we could always say hi.
Yep. Okay, now it's time for...
Last time on Deep Space Nine.
Okay, and we heard from Neil Shepherd, and he said, excellent point about the Dominion War being Starfleet's fault. There's a Voyager novel where Starfleet find a planet surrounded by a graveyard of Borg ships, and the godlike race who lived there and destroyed them all are like, no foul, go in peace, but don't come back or there'll be trouble. So Starfleet send a fleet of ships on a diplomatic mission.
Oh!
It does seem to be a real Starfleet thing.
Arrogance thing.
Yeah, we've got the right to explore everywhere, and no, you don't.
Thank you for that, sir.
Thank you!
I think we need to start All Good Things.
Trapped in 3 separate realities, I'm moving back and forth through time, putting the lives of his entire crew at risk.
What you're asking for is impossible.
Picard must stop the greatest threat to mankind.
Red alert! All crew to battle stations!
In a deadly showdown with his most powerful enemy.
Humanity's fate has been sealed. You will be destroyed.
Next time on Star Trek: The Next Generation.
So that's the trailer for the first part. As originally broadcast, of course, it was a 2-hour finale, and that's 2 hours including all the adverts. So
it's an hour and 3/4.
Something like that, slightly less. And we watched it all as a one part, because that's how it is on the DVD. But we'll be stopping halfway through, because we've got at least one lot of feedback that's just on the first half.
Yeah.
And we'll be doing our usual swap over.
Yes.
Because Anne-Marie will probably be trolleyed by then.
Yeah, well, give you an idea, for my part, where I had to be taking notes, 4 sides. For when I didn't have to make notes, I've got 4 lines.
Right. So we expect to hear a lot less of Anne-Marie in the second half.
Oh, I mean, I might be ranting.
Okay. Let's do this thing.
Okay. So, Troy and Worf have been in the holodeck.
Having a date, apparently.
It was very stimulating. Euphemism.
Oh, that would have been wonderful if Jim had appeared and said that. Now, we start off with an annoyance for me, because this is officially the first time they've been together. Because it's happened a couple of times, but it's always been in parallel universes, it hasn't been for real. So this is the first time in proper continuity that they're together. And they've left it to the last episode. Now, I remember them getting together a lot earlier, and they do kind of.
They have
but
that
only
dinner,
in parallel.
don't they?
Yeah, they have a dinner, but that doesn't. Yeah, it's weird. I expected a lot more from the relationship, and literally, it's in terms of the actual relationship, there's nothing until the end, which is really sad. No wonder it feels a bit half cooked.
Well, it was half cocked. I don't know about half cooked.
He should be so lucky.
So then Worf says he's worried about Riker, and he goes to kiss Troy, and then Picard in his dressing gown asks what the date is.
Sort of Back to the Future style, yes.
And the thing is, this dressing gown, it's too open at the chest. It looks too flimsy. And I know it never does, but because it's so open at the chest, you start worrying it's going to fall open in other places. It's just a dressing gown.
Don't do the Picard manoeuvre, the whole thing will fall apart.
Exactly. It's a dressing gown of wrong, okay? Now, I would feel quite differently about Picard in his dressing gown, which happens a lot, if it was a proper Arthur Dent dressing gown.
Yes.
That's how you appear in your dressing gown. Okay, so just take note, Picard, okay? Anyway.
It's not a bad tease, though. It introduces Picard's plight.
Yeah, he's moving back in time.
We're going to be making a lot of use of that music, I can't help feeling.
Yeah, so that's the teaser. The idea that he's moving back and forth in time, yeah, that just, it would be enough to get me carrying on watching. Mm-hmm. So it does its job. It's not a captain's plop. Stardate 7,342,000. We've just scanned some gas. Sorry. Anyway, I'm not in a happy mood. I've just watched All Good Things. So then you have Picard still in his dressing gown. Why did he not get the fuck dressed? Anyway, he's with Troy, explaining that he's going back through time and it's more than just a dream. And then suddenly, he has a nice beard but a bad hat, and he's tending to his vines. Euphemism. Sorry.
My life. This is going to go throughout the episode. Tending the vines. Oh, yeah. Get my grape juice.
Geordie visits and calls him ambassador, and it's 25 years since they were last on the Enterprise.
And Geordie's got the sort of eyes he ends up with in First Contact.
Yeah.
Interestingly.
Yeah. And he's married to Leah Brahms. Why? What happened?
Yeah, no. God, that was a hell of a make-up, wasn't it?
Yeah.
After him creeping after her. I mean, I know they finished the episode on much better terms.
But she was married.
And even so, she was still creeped out by him.
Yeah, and he still had no dress sense, and he was the stalky daughter of Stalky, and...
He's obviously changed in his older age, and they've got a couple of kids as well, we find out.
3.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of them's called Brent. Presumably as in Brent Spike.
Well, I hadn't noticed that, but possibly.
Yeah, as long as it's not David fucking Brent, I'm alright. Anyway, Picard has Irimotic syndrome. It's obviously a made-up thing that's like dementia. And he sees small shouting people, but only briefly, and I couldn't tell if they were children or dwarfs. You watch this twice. The very first time, does he see children or dwarfs?
No, they're not children. They're adults, one of whom is a dwarf.
Right, thank you.
Or a person of restricted height. Or
yeah, but as in not a child.
Whatever the more PC word is. I'm sure it's not dwarf, by the way.
No. I don't know. I'm not sure what you'd say.
Pass.
No, okay. Point is adult.
Yeah.
not child.
Yes.
Fine, thank you. Because it's this very first time it happens, it's so brief, I couldn't tell.
Yeah.
Okay. Shouty, angry people. Then I've put this in my notes as at Farpoint. What I mean is the Farpoint mission, but actually he's on a shuttle with Yar.
Yeah, well, this is interesting stuff, because here we...
Gotta get back in time.
Stop it!
Yeah.
Because this happens a lot, we can't do this every time.
Yes, we can.
No. Okay, so A, we've got them wearing the old uniforms, which is nice. Get those out of mothballs. B, we have Tasha Yar back again, because
that is nice.
back when she's alive. Although it does annoy me intensely they haven't got her hair right. They haven't shaved her hair around the sides. The hair's not at all like it is in Encounter at Farpoint. It's really annoying. They try really hard on other continuity points and don't bother with her hair. Bizarre. Anyway, potentially another continuity point. They're on a Type 6 shuttle. Now, back in the day, they only had the Type 7, but you can perhaps presume they also have Type 6s on board. We just never saw them. But apparently they did, because here's one. The reality is they got rid of the Type 7 because the internal set didn't match the model, and replaced it with the converted Galileo shuttlecraft from Star Trek V, your favourite film, which is a nicer model, admittedly. But there we are. Okay, you can wake up now.
Okay. Anyway.
McKinley Station, by the way, looks crap. It looks like bad CGI. I don't know if it is, but that's what it looks like.
Yeah. It's brown.
Well, part of it's brown, yeah.
It reminded me of the arrival to see the Enterprise in motion picture.
Mm-hmm.
But thankfully it's shorter.
A lot shorter than that, yes. But it's nice that we see that, Picard's first view of the Enterprise. That's a nice emotional payoff. Or at least it would be if it looked better. But as I say, the McKinley Station model is poop.
Yeah. So then you see the Enterprise dock there, and then you're back in the now.
Yeah, and Patrick Stewart does a really good job of making Picard looking really disturbed that this has happened again. He sort of comes around and says, hang on a minute, I was in the past.
Yeah.
And he looked completely freaked out, bless him.
So now he's in sickbay. And there's no psychosis or temporal displacement, but there is evidence of something that could later on lead to Irremotic syndrome. And Beverly is clearly upset at delivering this news. Then there's the call from Admiral, name I've forgotten.
Nakamura.
Thank you.
Who returns from way back in season 2.
No, I knew he was there before.
Yeah, Measure of a Man, where he wore that quite outrageous Admiral's uniform I think you only saw once. And also he was in Phantasms. And he's played by Clive Kusayasu?
Kusayasu.
Thank you, that sounds much better. Who I don't know if I knew this before, but if I had, I'd forgotten it. Apparently he auditioned for the part of Quark.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, curious.
I'm not being funny. Does that mean he's short then?
Yeah, well, most Japanese people are.
Are they?
Yes.
Okay. I suppose you don't know because he's behind a desk.
No, you don't know. But you do know in Measure of a Man because he turns up with...
Maddox,
yeah.
So, anyway, it's from Starfleet Intelligence, and the Romulans are heading towards the neutral zone in large numbers, particularly towards the Devon system where a spatial anomaly's been detected. So, the Enterprise is to go there. Then there's a jump forward, and he's saying he doesn't belong, it's not his time. Now, as anybody who's listened to even just the previous episode will know, I don't like this story. I'll come on to why at the end. There are specific reasons why I don't. But I love Patrick Stewart's portrayal of himself as older. His speech is different.
It is, isn't it? It's interesting the way he's done it. It's not just makeup. It's partly body language. Yeah. And he has accentuated kind of the northernness of his accent, which is interesting. Which is an interesting feature. I mean, obviously it doesn't make any sense for Picard because he's French, but never mind. But in terms of my experiences, as people get older, their accents tend to get a bit more pronounced, actually. So yeah,
I love the fact that whatever it is he's doing... Patrick Stewart is finding a way to portray Picard as older without that being a caricature.
Yeah, mentioning no names, Brent Spiner.
Yeah, anyway. We'll get on to him Data being old in a minute. Geordie is sympathetic, but also there's an extent to which he does actually come across a bit patronising. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm guessing it's deliberately written this way, where he's sort of like, we need to get you home, we need to get you to a doctor, and then it's like, no, we need to see Data, and it's like, oh, I'll indulge you then. Do you know what I mean? You need to go see Data, we go see Data in Cambridge. And then you see the strange, shouty people again.
The future Cambridge looks pretty good, doesn't it?
It does, actually.
A nice sort of matte painting with a model flyer going around it.
Yeah.
Splendid stuff.
I quite like that.
Nice little touch.
Who is this woman? I mean, I want to call her Mrs. Doyle.
Would you like another cup of tea? No.
Go on.
She seem familiar to you?
No.
Okay, well, she should do, because
Right.
This is Pamela Kosh, who played the very similar role of Mrs. Carmichael in Time's Arrow Part 2 at the beginning
Okay, no, I know who that character is.
of
Fair enough.
Season 6.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just 2 years ago. And she's playing pretty much the same person here.
I mean, is she his housekeeper or what? Why
Yeah.
does Data need a housekeeper?
I don't know. I think that's what they expect of English houses. I don't think professors in Cambridge even now have housekeepers.
No.
So quite why they would in the future, I don't know.
No. And she brings tea, which isn't Earl Grey. Or just slightly amusing, but, so they don't have a replicator. Why? And when she has
She's
to make tea.
presumably made it in the replicator and brought it to them. I don't know why they've set this in the Middle Ages.
I would rather it was Mrs. Doyle, actually.
Beyond the Queen, I think there are very few houses that have servants in these days, folks.
know.
Sorry to break this to you, United Statesians, but we ain't living in those days anymore.
No. So Data's wearing a really bad smoking jacket,
Yeah.
terrible trousers, and he has skunk hair.
Which she points out.
Except, if she was actually British, we don't have skunks. She would say badger hair.
I'm not sure, to be honest, because we do know what a skunk is. I mean, I would automatically describe that as skunk hair.
Yeah, but that's because we've seen this episode before, and we know someone who has hair like that, so we call it skunk hair as a reference to the episode.
Yeah, I think skunk hair comes much more naturally than badger hair. Don't know why, but there we go. Let's not get hung up on that.
Okay.
He's also become a cat lady. He's got loads of cats all over the place.
He's the mad Catwoman from The Simpsons. Does he take them down to a stream and wash them on a washboard?
I don't know, just can imagine his place smelling of pee, can't you?
Oh, yeah. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe she's a cat keeper. Data is going to help, and then suddenly there's a jump back, and he's taking the oath at Farpoint, or, well, before it goes on to the Enterprise, and the crazy people are there again, so he automatically sends the crew to battle stations, but nobody can see the crazy people apart from him.
Crazy Admiral Sati gets a mention.
Yes.
Before she retired, obviously. But she's the one who's given command of the Enterprise over to Picard. We get to see O'Brien in Next Generation again, which is slightly weird, particularly since he's wearing the reds that he wore back in Encounter at Farpoint. But it's a lovely continuity point, although he's got the wrong pip, unfortunately, but never mind.
Oh, well, whatever.
It's the wrong pip, Gromit.
Yeah.
But it is nice to see Picard's first moments on the ship. I think that's quite a nice thing to register. And Troy's back in the scant as well.
I've got that as my next note, Troy
nice,
in a scant.
Nice legs.
Yeah, okay. And I like the fact that he gives an order to Worf instead of Yar. It's just sort of an...
Yes, automatically thinking of him as being in charge of security.
But you've got the same Romulan situation in this timeline as you have in our timeline. The Devron system, spatial anomaly, and whatever. But what Picard does in this timeline is ignore all the orders to do with Devron because he thinks he has to maintain the timeline and says we have to go to Farpoint anyway.
Interestingly, you see him in the conference room and the ships are back on the wall.
Yes.
Which you've not seen since, I think, the first season. But I can't remember if they lasted to the second season or not. But anyway, we haven't seen them in a long while. But obviously they kept them, which was clever.
But they look... In high def, they look really shonky.
Yeah, they do look pretty bad.
They probably don't on
DVD,
normal DVD, but in high def, they do look really quite bad.
Some of the makeup, our aged makeup, doesn't look too good in high def either, but never mind.
No, but you can't blame them because that wasn't the spec they were working to at the time.
Exactly. We also, interestingly, managed to sidestep the problem of a beardless Riker, because this is before they pick Riker up.
Yes, and they just use the same footage. It's the same bit.
Well, they used some footage from Arsenal of Freedom.
Yes.
We're complete with the holographic officer that he knew behind him, but only interestingly on the DVD. On the Blu-ray,
they've taken that out.
They've taken him out. It's really bizarre. I'll be putting that up on the Tumblr page. It's surreal.
And then I'm not going to go into detail because it's lots of technobabble stuff, but there is some very nice interaction between Picard and Chief O'Brien, except he's not the chief at this point, but he still calls him that, and Picard and Data. And it's sort of like...
I think the idea is he is a chief petty officer. He's not chief of operations,
but he's
clearly.
chief petty officer, still calling him chief. Okay, but it's things like, how do you know that, sir? And Data's response to him and stuff. I like it. I like the way it's played with Cole Meany, Patrick Stewart, and Brent Spiner. Mm-hmm. It's really good, including the interaction between the chief and Data as well.
Yep.
It doesn't last that long. the dialogue is almost all technobabble related, apart from the bit about Data not understanding idiom, but the performances from the three actors sell that scene.
Yeah.
And then you jump again, and Beverly is saying that Picard has got 2 days' worth of memories in 13 minutes. So in our timeline, they're like, yeah, Picard isn't going crazy, he isn't dreaming, this is real. There's sort of been a meeting about this, and Riker then invites Deanna to dinner, and she says that she and Worf has plans. So then as they go back to the bridge, Riker is distracted.
It seems all a bit out of character, this. Does it not to you? In the past, when she's had relationships with people, he's kind of like been just happy that she's happy. You know, it's a bit bizarre that suddenly he's getting all protective over her. And whether it's because it's Worf, I don't know.
I think it's because she's never had a relationship with somebody that he knew.
Right.
That's my... I mean, I don't like the whole...
Yeah, we know you don't like it, but setting that aside,
my reading of the scene
out of character for me. But anyway,
setting that aside, my reading of the scene is that it's because it's someone he knows, that he can cope with it if it's somebody he doesn't know.
All right.
In a way that it's difficult with somebody that he does know. In the same way as, although we don't like the episode and the way a lot of it's portrayed, the thing with Odan and how you've got Beverly talking about how it's difficult because she knows Will, whereas if it had been another host but a different someone she didn't know, it somehow that changes things emotionally.
Back in the host. Okay.
That's my take on the situation.
The other thing we discover at this point is that we're dealing with sort of parallel, not just different timelines, but parallel universes, effectively, because Troy has no memory of Picard calling Red Alert in the past. So therefore, what happened in the past isn't the past of the present.
And this is one of the reasons why I don't like this.
Mm-hmm. Well, we know how much you love parallel universe stories.
I just couldn't give a flying fuck about them, to be honest. Anyway, you have Picard very sensibly saying, you know, when I've just experienced a shift, I'm temporarily disoriented. If that happens and there's a crisis, you're going to need to take command. And Riker's obviously distracted and he's like, oh, we've got to take command, yes. And I'm thinking, if that was me, that would not fill me with confidence.
No.
I would be turning round to Data and going, Data, if he's distracted and I'm distracted, just do what is the right thing.
For chuff's sake, Will. Come on, this is your moment to shine and you're distracted about, you know, your girlfriend from years ago.
Yeah, no wonder you haven't got your own fucking ship,
yet
you
again.
twat.
Yes.
Anyway, he does seem to take it on board, but... I personally am not happy with how that scene plays out and Riker's character at that point anyway. Mm-hmm. Then now is Picard in his ready room or his quarters or what?
His ready room.
Okay, Beverly appears with milk.
Milky.
Yeah.
Time for a sexy scene with milk.
Oh. Ew.
It's Crusher's milk as well.
Ooh, Crusher.
I want some Crusher, a little Crusher. Milk keeps me fit and tastes so great. I want some Crusher, a glass of Crusher. It's tough enough to make milkshake. Add milk, or will Crusher.
Crusher's milkshake.
Do you remember those adverts?
I do, yeah.
Have to put that on the tumblers.
Yeah, I'll put it on the podcast, yeah. Crusher milkshakes. Oh, they were foul.
Yeah.
But I used to drink the banana one.
Did you?
And
why?
It just tasted the chemicals. I don't know why. I think I just liked the advert and that's why I drank it. But it was just foul. Absolutely. And it always had gritty bits at the bottom as well, where not all of it dissolved properly.
Milk with lumps in.
It's funny how you don't get Crusher milkshakes anymore, isn't it? Probably because too many people died. Chemical poisoning.
Oh dear.
But yeah, suddenly, because it's the last story of the series, we suddenly have a blossoming of the Crusher and Picard romance. It's like, if you'd have done this earlier, I mean, there was that sort of false start, wasn't there?
Well, the thing is, there was
where
that,
they were joined in that episode.
No, there was that stupid scene at the end of Attached where Picard says,
that was so...
why don't we, now that we've acknowledged our feelings, why don't we explore them?
And she basically
kisses him and then says no.
Nah. And it's like, oh, fuck off. Oh, really? Really? So now they're going to leave it till right at the end.
And she kisses him.
And it's a lovely kiss, and it's like, this should have come half a season earlier, you idiots.
And I love Picard's smile.
Yeah, it's nice, isn't it?
It's a really sweet smile. It just makes you want to hug him, actually.
Yeah. But it's too late. Too little too late. And
then you're in the future, and in this future, there is no neutral zone. So Picard going, we've got to go to the neutral zone, to the Devon system, whatever, doesn't work. The Klingons have taken over the Romulan Empire,
which is a lovely idea. I'd completely forgotten that aspect of this story, but it's a nice change to the future. Suddenly, the Romulans are completely overrun by the Klingons, and the Klingons are belligerent against the Federation. Which, I mean, that couldn't possibly happen, could it? Anyway,
actually, what I find it completely believable that the Klingons take over the Romulan Empire because of the whole Duras connection, right? You can see that in 25 years, because that's the time span you're talking about, the whole Duras thing is totally blown up, and the Klingons have taken revenge by going for the Romulan Empire, right? Get that. We're not given an explanation as to why the Klingons taking over what is actually a mutual enemies of theirs and the Federation's would cause problems with the Federation.
Well, I think you can quite quickly surmise that the Klingon Federation partnership, if you like, is very much a sort of mutual protection thing against the Romulans. So as soon as the Romulans are no longer a feature and the Klingons are now much more powerful, it's a bit like, modern day Russia, basically. They wax and wane in terms of their belligerence depending on how powerful they are. So when they went through the bad phase where their economy was going down the toilet, when they dropped communism finally, suddenly they weren't a threat and there was all loads of peace talks. But as soon as they get economically powerful again, where they discover loads of oil like they are now, suddenly they're a threat again. And it's exactly the same with the Klingons.
Okay.
I'm not well, I mean, the Klingons have historically, let's face it, been used as a parallel for the Russians. So I'm not talking out of my butt here, am I?
Okay, no, fair enough.
I can see as soon as the Klingons get more powerful again, they're going to get a lot more shirty with the Federation and be less pally. So
fair enough. So Picard says they need a ship.
And at this point, they were going to break the Enterprise out of mothballs with a skeleton crew, rather like Star Trek 3, fly the Enterprise D into the neutral zone, which would have been lovely, but they decided they didn't have the budget for that. Boo! And it has real plot consequences later on, but we'll touch on that later.
Yeah, the thing is, this whole, let's take it out of mothballs and fly it with our, I don't know, maybe they thought it had been done before.
Not with a D, obviously, but anyway, we'll touch on this later.
Anyway, Admiral Riker says no.
Silver Fox Riker. Is he doing it for you?
No. I'm not being funny, but he seriously looks like he's put cotton wool in his cheeks, like what's his face playing the Godfather.
Marlon Brando. He doesn't look that bad, but certainly his makeup is one of the least convincing ones, because there are parts of his face that are clearly not made up to look old, and other parts that are. It's very patchy, so he just looks really odd. He's not looking properly, and it does literally look like they've just basically taken talcum powder through in his face to make him look grey.
Yeah.
It's poop.
So it doesn't look convincing. I think that's part of the reason why it doesn't look attractive. Older men can look attractive. This guy does not look attractive.
We do have the parallel universe uniforms, though.
But that's probably deliberate. It's probably signposting the fact that this is a parallel future.
Yeah. And we also get some new com badges as well, which are quite snazzy. I quite like those.
Oh, I hate them.
Do you?
Yes.
Oh. They're not like, because the ones in Future Imperfect and Parallels had the rank on the actual com badge.
Yeah, I like those.
Yeah. Well, these ones don't. They've got the rank across the pattern of the top, basically.
Yeah. No, I don't like these com badges. I think they look crap. And yeah, I think the other thing is the reason that Silver Fox Riker isn't doing it for me is because he's not a silver fox. He's just a grumpy old man.
Nah.
Yeah. And he's not even an amusing grumpy old man like Father Jack.
Admiral Riker just standing there going, "Feck! Us! Get the feck out of the neutral zone!"
No, he should just be going and going, "Women's knickers! I love my brick!" That would at least be amusing. Mm-hmm. There's seriously nothing to like about this particular Riker character.
Well, you say that. I will touch on this later, but I do like a later scene with him. But yeah, mostly you're right. He's just a grumpy old git, and he doesn't seem particularly grateful for all Picard's done for him over the years at all.
No, he's just
anyway.
So I don't like him. So he says no because he's a cunt.
Harsh.
But fair. So Data suggests a medical ship, which is the USS Microphone. I mean, sorry, the Pasteur.
The Pasteur. Oh, man. Okay, this was a model built by ILM's Bill George in his spare time, based on one of Matt Jeffrey's original Enterprise designs that he threw away in the 60s because he knew it didn't look good enough. Yeah, it's as ugly as feck. I really don't understand. Some people really like this. I've never understood. The nacelles stick out like bloody handlebars. The engineering section is just ugly. It's really badly thrown together.
It's a fugly ship.
It is a fugly ship with a big ball on the front.
It's a fugly bollock.
It's a fugly bollock. The USS Fugly bollock is what it is now called. I was having a drink.
Beer nearly came out my nose. The USS Fugly bollock. Oh.
Now, the Fugly bollock is an
Sorry.
Olympic class ship.
It's an Olympic fugly bollock.
With a dedication plaque featuring the first line of the hippopotamus oath. The bridge is a redress of the mercenary ship that we saw in Gambit, parts 1 and 2, except with purple upholstery. Hey.
I suppose it's suitably scrotal.
And it has a combined colon-op station at the fore of the bridge, which is something we'll be seeing in the not too distant future. Anyway, more of that.
Yeah,
next
whatever.
time.
Anyway, they're on the USS Fugly Bollocks, and they decide that they're going to use Worf to get clearance to go into the neutral zone.
We meet Ensign Nell Chilton, who's at the combined con-op station.
At Cox.
Cops, not Cox.
Well, it's the USS Fugly Bollocks. It's got to be called Cox, surely.
She's played by Alison Brooks, who was the then girlfriend of writer and producer Brannon Braga. Yes.
Anyway, Picard manages to persuade Worf through a various shouty, throw everything on the floor scene. And you've got to jump, and Picard is shouting for Q in the early Farpoint timeline. And there's no joy. Troy doesn't sense anything. And there's a nice scene between Yar and Worf. What is a Q? Letter of the alphabet, as far as I know.
Yeah.
Which I like.
By the way, one little continuity error here, other than Yar's hair, is the fact the captain's chair is the season 2 onwards chair, which presumably was an alteration of the season 1, so they couldn't restore it to how it was before. So that does stick out. Whereas the Colin Ops chairs are the same as we had in season 1, the really laid back ones.
The Prince Charles Cinema ones.
Effectively, yes.
Anyway, Picard goes to his ready room, and it is the Q court, and Q appears.
Finally, it's taken a long time.
And lacklustre Art Minbari's banner is still there.
It's one of his better efforts, to be fair.
Yeah. And the audience features Terry Jones as a woman. I mean, I'm sure it doesn't, but there's a character that really looks like...
I'm pretty sure that would be on Memory Alpha if it were the case.
Yes, but that's what it looks like. So there's a character that really looks like Terry Jones when he's dressed up as a woman.
Ooh, there's Q! Ooh, look at her!
And then Q says that Picard can ask him 10 questions with a yes or no answer. So Picard asks a few, and you basically end up with Q is responsible for the time shifts, and Picard is going to destroy humanity / has destroyed humanity / will destroy humanity. And the Q have been watching humanity for, or specifically the Enterprise, or quite possibly just Picard, this isn't made entirely clear, for 7 years. And they've squandered that 7 years. And Q says it's time to end their trek through the stars.
It's like they're on some kind of Star Trek.
Oh, no, I know.
At least they didn't go that far.
I mean, I know that you've got those people who hate it when the title of a film is mentioned. Now, sometimes when the title of a film or in an episode, whatever is mentioned, it's fine. Because the title of said film or episode is a normal thing people normally say. But when it isn't something people normally say in ordinary conversation, it sticks out like a fucking sore thumb. And it pulls you out if you were even remotely in the first place. So this winds me up. So yes, and Picard has caused the annihilation of humanity. Da da da.
So there we go. That's kind of the end of the first half of our finale. And grumbling continues. The thing that struck me was the fact it took so long for Q to appear. I'm sure he appeared earlier on. I thought he had appeared early on, but clearly he doesn't. So there we are.
Can I give you a sort of first half feedback?
If you want to, feel free, because other people have.
Because, although I don't like this, I like the second half even less.
Okay.
What I don't like is the fact that in this half, there aren't consequences. That he's gone back in the previous timeline and it's not making any difference to our timeline.
Because they're parallel rather than... Yeah.
I would feel differently about this half if either there definitely were consequences or the possibility was still open.
Mm-hmm.
Because for me, the fact that there aren't any consequences in the past automatically makes me think, oh yeah, it's not going to matter then, is it? That's just that's automatically how I feel, because I couldn't give a flying fuck about a parallel universe. I'm not watching a parallel universe, I'm watching this one.
Mm-hmm.
So for me that's a big thing. And the other thing is obviously fucking Q, even if you haven't seen it before.
Yeah.
And it takes too long for him to appear.
Yeah.
Once he does, I think he's good.
And I think it's stupid because we all knew Q was going to appear in it because the word had got out very early.
And trailer.
On. Yeah. I mean, all right, they didn't call it Q something the title of the episode, but nevertheless, it was.
FuckQ it should have been called.
Oh God. Sorry, that's not going to work with iTunes.
No, I know.
But
sorry.
But. Yeah, so we knew it was going to be Q. So you may as well have introduced him earlier on, actually.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's find out what Drew and Tracy made of the first half.
So we just watched part 1 of All Good Things.
Yeah.
It's a good start, I think.
That was a kind of a good introduction to a two-parter. So you've got Picard, who's going through some kind of
3 time periods.
Yeah, some kind of issue where he keeps flipping backwards and forwards, and it's kind of it's bringing in old and new cast.
Oh, it's great, like how they've got all the old cast.
Yeah.
You got older, the short
old
skirts.
Yeah, you like Troy.
That's my favourite bit.
Initial uniform.
And Wolf in the red uniform.
And it's good to see O'Brien.
Yeah, and they've all got like the skin tight uniforms.
Yeah, that's what you
It's great. It's excellent. And the future, I like Data in the chair at Cambridge. That's excellent, and all the cats.
That was very good, but it also annoyed me when the tea lady came in. I wanted her to sound like Mrs. Doyle.
Any more tea?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go on. That's what I really wanted her to sound like. But instead, typical American writers made her sound like Nancy from Oliver. Do you want a cup of tea, governor? And it's just like, oh, please, is there anything more cliched than having someone like that? But poor John Luke, when he was sort of sitting in the opening sequence, and just the face on him when he kind of didn't understand what was happening to him, and I did turn to him and say, "You just want to give him a hug."
Yeah.
Oh, I did say to you, it shows the unquestionable trust that a lot of the crew, or some of the crew, have in Picard. Like when he first goes onto the Enterprise, and he's seeing the people in the balcony, and he's having and he calls red alert, and like everyone's really confused, and Tasha Yar's like, "You heard him, move!"
I know, but that's, I think, due to training. I mean, there's Wolf sort of like whispering in her ear, and that I think they're not got complete.
It is,
faith
but
in him,
then later
because they don't know him yet.
No, but then later on, he's saying to Beverly, we need to go here, we need to go to the neutral zone, we need to do this, and
in the future.
Yeah, and they're okay, let's do it then. Well, if that's what you want to do, that's where you've got to go.
But that's after what must be 32 years of knowing him.
I still think it just shows the regard that people have for Picard.
Yeah, definitely. In the future, definitely. Yeah, so that was good. And now on to part 2 then, I guess.
Yes, I mean, I'm enjoying it so far, so let's see
what happens.
What this one holds.
Okay.
Let's have it. Dun dun dun.
There are rather more positive outlook on it.
Yeah, sorry.
And they went to a Mrs. Doyle place as well.
Yeah. I don't really know what to say because they're really enjoying it and I'm not. It's almost as though we're not watching the same thing. What's your impressions of the first?
Impression of the first. It's hard to. Certainly the first time I watched it, I did enjoy it. I'm gonna leave my commentary, I think, till the end.
Okay, no, fair enough. Fine.
Let's do part 2.
It began with an incredible journey through time.
I am going to be the cause of the destruction of humanity.
Now, the past, the present, and the future are about to collide.
We are defenseless.
And the fate of all mankind depends on one man.
We can't stay, Captain.
We have to. Everything depends on it.
Goodbye, Jean-Luc. I'm going to miss you. But then again, all good things must come to an end.
Next time on Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Okay, into the second half. We have everyone gathered in the conference room because it wouldn't feel like The Next Generation otherwise. And we have the usual discussion of how you deal with time travel problems, complicated by the fact that they seem to be dealing with different realities overlapping around Picard. Data makes the amusing analogy of the relationship between Picard and Q being that of a master and his beloved pet.
I like that.
And the look on people's faces, particularly Gates McFadden, does a wonderful job sort of biting a lip.
Yes. Oh dear.
They go to the bridge, and now it's time for Who's at the... Ensign Gates for one last time. Oh, bye-bye, Ensign Gates. I'm annoyed she doesn't appear in the movies. Earned that place in the movies. It's annoying. There's a face-off with 2 other Federation ships which we don't see, the Concorde and the Bozeman.
Isn't the Bozeman the one that Fraser was on?
Could have been, but obviously this is a different ship. It won't still be that one.
No, as in it would be the Bozeman C or something, presumably.
Not necessarily if it's a different class of ship, but let's not worry about that.
Okay, sorry.
I mean, it should be, but you don't get me started on nomenclature of registrations. Oh boy. Anyway, there are also 3 warbirds on the other side, and it sort of developed as a big face-off. Picard hails the Romulan flagship, and time jumps again. And it's Governor Worf answering. From here on inwards, the time jumps happen a lot faster, and at least it adds a bit of pace to things, whereas before you're getting settled into a time zone, and then there's a skip. From now on, it's like skip.
Yeah.
Governor Worf looks wonderfully grizzled. It's a good makeup job, this one, I think. He's wearing Chang's sash, I think, from Star Trek 6 as well. I think I recognise that. He denies Picard's request to cross the neutral zone, bitching about Riker not giving Picard a cloaked ship to do it. There are deep wounds there, obviously. Captain manipulates his old friend to get permission through. We get Worf's love of honour being played on, and the Klingon demands to come with them. Jump to the past, where Picard orders his new crew to the neutral zone. Unsurprisingly, Troy takes him aside to warn him the crew are struggling with his, let's face it, erratic orders.
Yeah.
This is the point where they hail Riker at Farpoint, and we see that clip from Arsenal of Freedom. Troy tells Picard that she and Riker were involved in the past, which is a nice touch to finally see that conversation happen. As is the fact that he orders tea Earl Grey and it's not programmed into the replicator yet.
Yeah.
Back to the present. See, I told you it was happening fast. And there's a fantastic scene, probably my favourite scene in the entire story, of Tomalok.
So, Captain, how long shall we stare at each other across the neutral zone?
There is an alternative, Tomalok. We each know why we're here. We could each send one ship into the neutral zone to investigate the anomaly in the Devron system.
Has Starfleet Command approved this arrangement?
No.
I like it already. Agreed. One ship from each side, but I warn you, if another Federation starship tries to enter the zone...
There is no need to make threats. We each know the consequences.
Very well. I'll see you in the Devron system.
Hey! Katsoulis is back!
Yeah.
He's giving Picard grief for old time's sake.
I love it. It's brilliant.
If it had been more of him in the episode, it would have been a much better story, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
He only appears on the view screen by request from Andreas Katsoulis, because the one time he wasn't just on a view screen in Future Imperfect. He didn't feel comfortable in the role, bizarrely. So he said, yes, he's happy to come back, but only if he only appears on the view screen. And the sort of console thing he's leaning over, by the way, is something else from Gambit as well.
But I love he gesticulates, and
as I say, it's arguably the best scene in the episode, to be honest. There's real passion here. Then we have
Swirly thing alert!
All 3 ships approach the anomaly. It's larger in the past, but not there in the future. Worf warns them that the Klingons are onto them. Data comes up with a technobabble way of searching for the anomaly in the future, which they can't because they can't see it. And Beverly gives Picard a dressing down for questioning her orders on the bridge, and rightly so.
Yep.
She tries to get him to confront the state of his mental faculties, and it's a shame, really. In some ways, if it had been this differently written so that there was more doubt in the audience's mind as to whether this was actually just Picard's condition, his mental condition. I mean, it's obvious straight away that, because we see the three different time zones, that this is actually happening. But had it been set in the future primarily, and you're wondering whether Picard's going mad, whether this really is happening, that would have been a lot more of an interesting take on it. But
one of my huge problems with the whole episode.
Mm-hmm. Q appears, seemingly taking the piss out of Brent Spiner's old man act.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Complete with ear trumpets.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
And he's great in this scene. Yeah. And
why couldn't he have been playing Brent Spiner? Yeah, sorry.
There is an answer to the crisis, apparently. In the present, Picard suggests future Data's suggestion to scan the anomaly. In engineering, once they've initiated the pulse, Geordi gets a headache as his eyes begin to be regenerated, which is something that's occurring to other crew members too, with injuries being repaired. And Data puts this down to the anomaly being an eruption of anti-time. Now, anti-time is where you get a nice cup of tea and a bourbon biscuit, but this is anti-time, not anti-time. Picard fills in the data of the past, and then we're back to the future. Yeah, that is going to get tiresome. The Pasteur is under attack.
No. It's the USS Fugly bollock.
Sorry, yes, the USS Fugly bollock is under attack from 2 Klingon attack cruisers.
They are Navars! Navar! Gonna take you to a Navar! Navar!
Gonna take you to a gay bar, gay bar, gay bar.
Now, Amory has one of these for Attack Wing.
Yeah.
As in the version that appears in Deep Space Nine in Season 4, which hasn't got the spiky bits
Not
that appear here.
strange spiky things.
Yes. And whenever she uses a ship, she sings that song.
Yes.
Sorry about that.
I have songs for all my ships.
Not
much.
Not now.
Sorry.
So what we have here, the Negvar class, is a modified mould of the Vorchar class. And you can see that if you look at it. It's mainly the bridge that they've altered. And they liked this little design so much that they decided they were going to introduce it into Deep Space Nine as a regular Klingon ship in our universe. And we get a lovely bit of action, finally, in what has been a very talky episode so far, it has to be said. Beverly orders them out of the neutral zone, but their warp drive is non-functional. Geordi tries to do something from the bridge, because they can't afford an engineering set as well. She orders their surrender. Worf tries something in Klingon, but the firing continues, and Chilton dies a messy death when her console explodes in her face. Properly dead there, I think you'll find.
Yeah, she's probably dead. Also, I know she wasn't just Con, she was also Ops, but she has the right hair.
Oh, the right hair for...
Was it Con or Ops? We said you had to have bad hair.
Oh, right, for Con, yeah.
Yeah, she's got Con hair.
She's got Con hair. Isn't that
She's
a film?
Nick Cage.
She's that's a film on Nick Cage, isn't it? Con hair. Nick Cage stars in Con hair. Let's face it, he's had plenty of dodgy do's in the past, so...
yeah.
I just want to see Nick Cage at the Con now.
Oh, that would have been so awesome.
How awesome would that have been? Anyway.
Yeah, sorry.
Then, to the rescue, we get the Enterprise turning up. It's a wonky, free-nasaled version with, again, spiky bits, because that's what they have in the future.
Yeah. Spiky bits and a wang.
And why would the Enterprise D still be going 25 years in the future? And we know in our reality, of course, that it doesn't last much long in the future. Spoilers. And we're on to the E, at least, and the E gets badly damaged in Nemesis, doesn't it? So, it should be at least the F or the G at this point, but no, because it's cheaper, they just redo the model slightly with some spiky bits and an extra nasal, which looks rubbish. Free nasals is just crap. There's a reason why they don't do that. They're on board the Enterprise. She's got the tactical station mods we saw in Parallels with the extra bit of junk on the top there. And again, we've got the future uniforms. The crew of the Pasteur...
I don't like the uniforms and I don't like the comm badges and all the hair is bad.
The crew of the Pasteur are beamed off their exploding ship and it's good riddance to the USS Fugly bollocks as it explodes. We barely knew ye and we're not going to miss ye.
No.
Worf and Silver Fox, Admiral Riker face off.
Don't call him Silver Fox. That makes him sound as though he might possibly be attractive.
Okay, sorry.
He's not attractive. He's just a cunt.
The Enterprise beats a hasty retreat without a functioning cloak, because so apparently in the future it has a cloaking device. But of course with the Romulans gone, there's no need to maintain the Treaty of Algernon, so that kind of makes sense.
I thought it was Algeron, not
Algeron, you're right, it's Treaty of Algeron. Picard gripes and Beverly knocks him out with a hypo. If it had been Spock, it would have been a neck pinch, but there you are. In the present, poor Alyssa has lost a baby due to the effect of the anomaly, and it's doubly tragic that this is her only scene in this entire send-off.
It's not just that. What's really horrible, she and her other half are in the middle of sickbay, in public, no privacy, nothing, and they're just being told, "Oh, I'm sorry," and you get a single tear. And I know it's horrible, but I mean, give the woman some fucking privacy.
Thankfully, of course, this all gets undone because it never really happened. So,
well, no, that's good.
Yes. Beverly says that they could all end up dying as a result of the anti-time spewing out.
Or wouldn't they end up being unborn?
Or possibly. Q taunts Picard in the conference room on the difficult decision he faces, then transports him to Earth at the dawn of time, which is a nicely realised shot, to be fair. There's no sign of Scaroff, last of the Jaggeroff.
No, it does look a lot better than that scene.
Oh, yes. Doctor Who reference for you there. The anomaly is present here, even larger, and is disrupting the development of life on Earth.
There would never be a David Attenborough.
Yes, quite. In the past, data suggests that the theoretical scanner under development may help, which Picard orders him to use in the present, which is a nice way of using the different time streams to his advantage. I like this bit. Data talks about 3 pulses from 3 different enterprises causing the anomaly, but of course it wasn't 3 different enterprises causing the anomaly, it was 2 enterprises and the
USS
Fugly
Fugly
bollock. Yeah, so they made a mess of that.
They did. They cocked up.
And basically the plot boils down to, don't cross the streams.
Yeah.
So looking forward to the new Ghostbusters. Anyway, in 10 Forward we learn that Deanna is dead in the future, increasing the rift between Riker and Worf. May have been interesting to find out more about that, but we don't.
No.
Picard enters in his PJs.
Oh, what is this with Picard's fucking pyjama day? Oh, it's just,
Our kids have pyjama days.
Yeah. We're watching.
But, and to be honest, and when I'm old, fuck it, I'm going to have pyjama days.
You do already.
Very rarely. I mean, pretty much every day when I retire is going to be a pyjama day, believe me.
Oh, great, you're going to be one of those.
Oh, yes. I've got it all planned out. Particularly if I've still got these Star Trek pyjamas. I'm going to have to buy a lot more in order to make them last. But
yeah. Anyway, the thing is, you see Picard wake up and realise something, fine.
Yeah. You should then get dressed, really, shouldn't you?
No, so he discovers he needs to go to 10 Forward and turns up in his fucking PJs.
He talks about having realised it's the 3 streams that are causing the problem, and then Data backs him up on the creation of the anti-time anomaly, making sense of it getting larger in the past, apparently. They return to the Devron system to see if they can undo the damage, and Riker asks for help from Worf. In the present and the past, Picard gets the Tachyon impulse disengaged, but the anomaly isn't stopping. Geordi points out they need to repair the rupture, which they can only do by apparently flying the ship into it, which seems a bit random, but never mind.
They have to create a warp shell or
some
static,
such
techno fucking.
When Picard orders this when Picard orders this in the past, Yara understandably objects. She's actually pretty good in this story, to be fair.
She is.
Picard persuades them that they are doing this for the greater good.
Well, in the future, he does have a great big bushy beard.
Yeah, he does, yes. And they go for it. All 3 ships converge on the centre of the anomaly, and in a nice touch, you get to see them from different angles on the different view screens. In the past Enterprise, they lose warp containment and do explode. On the present Enterprise, Geordi is now Song's visor due to his eyes healing, which is a nice touch, and must have been nice for LeVar Burton. The present prize is next to explode, though. Q appears on the future Enterprise and quotes the episode title, at which point everybody leaves. Finally, their ship explodes, and Picard appears in Q's court, confirming that all worked out all right in the end. Picard thanks Q for his help, and the omnipotent being points out that he was also partly to blame, though he suggested to the other Q that he should give the time-spanning help, signalling his fondness for Picard.
I do like that scene. I like the way it's played between the 2 actors. Yes. It's good. I mean, I don't like the episode, but there are certain scenes that I do really like, and this is one of them.
And the trial continues, apparently. I mean, it is a nice idea of bookending.
Yeah.
With the encounter of Farpoint and the end. I mean, that's a lovely idea. Picard awakes where the episode started, asking about the date again, and it turns out that only he has knowledge of the events in this story, making it a bit of a waste of time, really, let's face it.
Another problem I have with this episode.
Yes, I'm with you with that one, sadly. Riker is beating everyone at poker, and Beverly reveals Picard has been naughty and told them how the future might turn out, which surely is not allowed. They should have temporal affairs on their asses. Data claims the future has already been changed, however, as the anomaly will never have been created. Worf and Riker agree not to let things turn out that way between them. Troy arrives to join in the game, as does Picard. Now, this is an interesting thing. This is the final scene, because a good friend of mine who was the curate of the church I was at the time really hated this final scene. He thought it was completely wrong that Picard would turn up and play poker with the other officers. He felt that was destroying the distance there needed to be between captain and crew, and I think that possibly says more about his idea of priesthood than he realised at the time, because actually this seems kind of a natural thing at this stage, doesn't it? But never mind.
Somebody, and I think it might have been Jellybean, said somewhere, and I can't remember whether it was on Twitter or on the Geek Planet Online forums, bearing in mind this conversation happened years ago, that the thing is, although it's like he says, they'd say you were always welcome, Picard himself wasn't ready to join them until that moment.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say.
And I think that is fair. I don't have a problem with this scene at all. I think it's quite nice, but the idea, it kind of seems to show that he could have turned up at any time. Well, maybe he could have, and he would have been welcomed, but Picard, I don't think, as an individual, was ready to.
Anyway, at this point, we get possibly the best directed scene in the entire story. None of the other direction particularly springs out, but this final scene is really nicely directed, with the camera panning up to the ceiling, looking down at the game, with the added bonus you get to see down Troy's top. Thank you. And
is that where you want the camera for the photo shoot of Destination Star Trek?
With me looking up. Leo, don't give me ideas. And then the camera pans out outside the ship, and the ship flies off into the sunset, which is definitely the best way to end Next Gen. I mean, the final scene, I've got no bones with at all. Interestingly, Fatbone Smith put the final page of the script up, covering this on the forum, and it chokes you up reading it. It's amazing. So there we go. That is all good things. Worth bearing in mind that Generations began filming whilst this was being made, bizarrely, although they were dealing with the Enterprise B stuff first, more of which in a month's time. And of course the writers were exactly the same both for this and for Generations, Brandon Braga and Ron Moore.
So that's why it doesn't work. Got fucking Brandon Braga.
They are quoted as saying they believe this works a lot better than Generations does. And I remember that being my initial opinion, because initially when I saw Generations I didn't like it very much. And initially when I saw All Good Things, I think I did like it. That's what I remember anyway. Interestingly, over time, my opinion has completely turned around, and I now
both a pile away.
Well, I enjoy Generations a lot more, which we'll come on to. But All Good Things, I must admit, has not fared well over time. I think it's fair to say. Originally, it was also going to feature Wolf 359 as a fourth timeline, which I think definitely would have been too much, made things far too busy. But there's the whole question about whether this is. I mean, the last scene is a good end.
Yes.
But whether the story as a whole is a good end to the series.
It's a good end for season 7 because it's full of fucking technobabble. It's mostly a pile of fucking wank. But it's not a good end to the series as a whole.
You see, I remember when I first saw it, it seemed like a good time travel mystery. Of course, once you know the answer to the mystery, unfortunately, it doesn't give you rewatch value.
No, the very first time I watched this, I did have a different reaction to my reaction now, but my reaction was frustration.
Uh-huh.
I just found that the whole potential, is he mad or is he not, dragged on for too long because you knew he wasn't.
Well, yes, I mean, it would have dragged on had you not known. I mean, that's the thing, it should have done. That should have been the crux of it. Is Picard losing his marbles in the future? I mean, there is a danger, of course. I mean, Voyager made this mistake, didn't they? With the whole thing about them getting home, and then in the final story, they're already there, and it's all set further in the future. I don't know, just seemed to rob you of a satisfying conclusion. But on the other hand, if you're going to do a future-looking back thing, I think it makes far more sense to create that question in the audience's mind of whether this is Picard going mad. But you don't
have the question. So I just found it frustrating.
I mean, I find it interesting watching it again, seeing the past stuff works a lot better for me. and fascinating the way they do and sometimes don't manage to match it to how things were in Encounter at Farpoint. And the fact that it bookends it with Encounter at Farpoint. I like that concept. But the future stuff ultimately is pointless, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because it's not going to happen, as we know.
No.
I mean, if they all had memories of it, if it had affected them all, then that would have been somehow more worthwhile. But the fact that it's only affected Picard seems to cheapen the end of the series for all the other characters. And particularly the fact that some of the minor characters, there's no Barclay, there's no... Ogawa literally only gets that awful scene, which never happened.
No Guinan.
If
there's a fucking time travel story, wouldn't she be one of the people...
she should have turning up and going, hang on, this isn't right. Exactly. Yeah.
Think about Yesterday's Enterprise.
And I'm sure probably that was a scheduling problem. They might have got rid of... I mean, she, let's face it, she turns up in Generations, but...
Yeah, no, it's just a massive pile of wank.
I find it interesting, but not emotionally engaging, which a final story needs to be, doesn't it? Let's face it.
First time round, I found it frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
Subsequent rewatches, I've just generally been very angry. This time round, I'm still very angry, but there are certain moments, certain scenes, certain aspects that I like. Mm-hmm. That I think enough time has passed that I'm not as angry as I was, and I can appreciate the odd good scene or the odd good aspect of it. But mostly I still hate it, because I don't like parallel universe stuff, because I'm only interested in my universe that I'm watching and couldn't give a flying fuck about any of the others, because they're not my people, because they're parallel people and I don't care. You've got the whole stuff about, is he mad or not? No, he isn't. Fuck off, where are you going with this? You've got Cross Riker, who just isn't Riker.
Yeah, the scene I did like about him, by the way, was where he's talking about Troy's loss.
Yeah.
And Frakes does a really good job there, actually, of making him seem really regretful of lost opportunities.
Yeah, that I do.
That scene works really well, but that is it. The rest of it, he's just grumpy old bugger.
Yeah. Most of the spaceships are terrible.
Yeah.
You've got far too much technobabble. I mean, everything, every 30 seconds. It's like, hello, Data, I'm Picard. I'm going to say some technobabble, and you're going to go, ooh, that's clever. And it's, oh, fuck off. So I don't like that. There are characters who should be here, like Barclay, who aren't. There should be an emotional punch to this story. For the last story, there should be one. There isn't. It's all, it didn't happen really, and now I'm going to tell you things so it doesn't happen really in the end, or just fuck off. I just don't like it. It makes me very angry, and Picard spends far too much time in either his pyjamas or his dressing gown.
Okay, so in terms of written feedback, we've heard from Good Ash, aka Dave.
And he writes, "Hi, Orgs! Finally, I've managed to find time to get some feedback to you. It's only taken the entire run of Next Generation to do it. An apology if this comes over very choppy. My thoughts on all good things. For a series finale, it does its job providing a story that keeps your interest until the end credits, and there have been quite a few TV shows that have followed TNG which have failed miserably. Lost? We're looking at you.
Yeah.
Having the episode come full circle with Q's trial on humanity being the catalyst to the story was inspired."
Yep, that is a good idea, definitely.
Yeah, it is, yeah. With Q stating that the trial never ends. So various plot points that caught my attention during the episode. The Worf-Deanna relationship should never have happened in the series. Yay!
Aha, one of those.
Was it elevated?
It should have, say, my final opinion on that is it should have happened a lot early if it was going to happen. They really wimped out on it, so...
He asked something that actually I did think at the time but didn't voice. Was it elevated here just to get the grudge between Riker and Worf in the future timeline?
It's all for plot. Every time they do the Troy-Worf romance, it's for plot contrivance. It's
That's because it doesn't really
not
work.
For character development. If it had been for character development, I would have been going for it on the basis at least that was some change. But they don't do change. Oh, don't start me. Carry on.
He says, Georgie finally gets the girl in the future married to Leah Brahms. Yeah, that makes no sense. It was good to get Denise Crosby and Cole Meany back to guest star, though weird seeing O'Brien in red.
Yep.
Allowing the past timelines some identifiable faces for the audience to relate to, due to most of the crib being at 5 point. Now, that was a good call.
Yeah.
Yeah. The boarding ceremony proves good old Jean-Luc is a bit more of a traditionalist than Kirk and Spock, with the use of an authentic bosun's call instead of the electrical one used in Star Trek 2. Data's housekeeper in the future, wasn't she the same landlady from Time's Arrow? Yeah. Future Data must have put his emotion chip in his future timeline as well, because he's definitely more emotional and using contradictions.
Yes.
He does seem more emotional.
Yeah, contractions. But yeah, yes, he is, and that's on purpose. Yeah. And you see, he's more Brent Spiner than he is Data in some ways, but that's okay for this story. And hey, at least he's not doing old acting.
Oh, don't, yes. Most of the problems I have are in the future timeline. Warp 13? Have they restructured the warp scale in the future?
Apparently, yes. For no reason.
Have they solved the problem with subspace as mentioned in Forces of Nature?
Let's not dwell on that.
At least they didn't turn into newts and fuck each other.
Yes, quite.
There's a bit of a cock-up with regards to Data's investigation of the tachyon pulses, stating that all three came from the Enterprise, when the future one came from the Pasteur.
Yep. Whoops.
The Enterprise D with 3 nacelles and bloody big phaser cannons does look pretty cool. But
does it?
I don't think so.
It looks awful.
But would an extra nacelle improve ship's flight? I think it would improve power, wouldn't it?
I mean, traditionally, it's units of orders of 2. You have 2 or you have 4. 3 just looks wrong and is against Roddenberry's original vision, and it just looks wrong. It looks rubbish. Sorry.
Yeah. Why does future Picard not mention Q to the future crew at any point? It might have made them believe his story slightly. He does later.
Yeah, he does, but too late, really, isn't he? Good point.
Did they kill off Deanna because there was no good way to age Marina Sirtis?
I don't know. No, it's the whole Worf Riker thing.
Yeah, isn't it? Bollocks. The revealing threat of the human race being affected at the moment of their creation is very similar to Doctor Who City of Death.
Just a bit, yes. we went there too.
Yeah. With the villain also
Scarov.
Yes. Yes.
Scarov.
Yep.
Seriously, you don't watch any other Doctor Who, watch City of Death.
It's awesome.
It's one of the best stories ever.
Yes. Couple of nice nods. The USS Yorktown name checked. We all know the original name that was going to be given to the Enterprise. Earl Grey tea not programmed into the database.
Yep.
Though if my captain was coming on board, I'd have made sure his favourite tipple was programmed in long before he arrived. For some reason, one of my favourite lines is from Q. You obtuse piece of flotsam. Don't know why, but it stuck with me.
Q is really good in this story, isn't he? I mean,
he is.
Other stories he's not so good at, but this one, very nice.
It's a shame you only get to see the 3 Enterprises together through the view screen. It would have made a great shot with all 3 together. One last nitty-gritty observation. If the anomaly is anti-time going backwards, then surely the USS Pasteur should have encountered it and should have disappeared when the Pasteur blew up. But that's me being picky, because it behaves opposite.
Oh, I don't know. Just don't dwell on it, really.
The final scene with Picard sitting down with the senior staff was a nice way to end, with the Enterprise heading off into the sunset. Over and all, enjoyable but wibbly-wobbly timey-wimey. Sorry, wrong franchise episode.
Mm-hmm.
Finally, huge thanks to both Peter and Anne-Marie for hosting the podcast. Despite not being able to leave feedback, I've been listening from the start. Helped on my many nights away from home with no internet.
Oh.
Looking forward to 5 more seasons of Deep Space Nine.
Hey!
Yay! Thank you!
Thank you, Dave. And it was good to meet you the other day again. Okay, next up we have Doreen. Hi, this is a much better Season 7 episode. Is that saying much? Better late than never, I guess. However, I have a confession to make. I didn't love this as much as I would have liked. I think I might be a wee bit like the Argyle Smurf in that whether I like an episode has more to do with how I'm feeling about life rather than the actual quality of the episode. I've watched All Good Things 3 times over the last 3 days because I was sure I should like it so much more than I did the first time. Really? No. I'm beginning to think that as a teenager I might have been a wee bit of a crush on Captain Picard. Not that I knew this at the time, I was probably expected to be dreaming about Boyzone or some other boy band at the time. There was definitely hero worship. I'm fairly sure I bought into the Captain Picard will sort everything out idea. Now that I see the world differently and don't believe in heroes anymore, a lot of the scenes have lost their effectiveness. Ooh, Stranglers, nice. I'm so glad the bOrgCast is now covering Deep Space Nine. If this was the end of the line for the cast as well, this email would have a very different tone. Right. We'll kill you, carry on or we kill you. Okay, I liked all the shots and angles of the various Enterprises, including seeing the tachyon beam and the vertical flying of the future Enterprise. Actually, that was nice.
That was nice.
Don't like the model, but I like the vertical
nice
flying.
Touch, yeah.
Oh, and it's decloaking. I think Gates McFadden is perhaps a better actor when playing a relatively young and indulgent grandmother. The uniforms appear to be showing the cyclic nature of fashion. I know the different uniforms are... We're probably supposed to provide a quick and easy visual cue about which time period Picard was in, but I think by the third time I was watching it, I got way too invested in the design of the uniforms. Oh, that happens to me a lot, believe me. I think I may have not spotted a plot hole. I think it was present-day data that figured out it was the free converging tachyon beams that were causing anomaly, and he says almost as if they were all coming from the same ship due to the signature of the beams. Then when Picard jumps out of bed to find Admiral Riker and Ted Ford, he goes to say we have to stop the tachyon beam we sent out, but has to correct himself to the pasteur. Yes, indeed. I think that's a throwback, by the way, to when they were going to get the Enterprise out of mothballs.
Yeah, probably.
Which would have worked so much better. You idiots! Anyway, the free tachyon beams were not actually created by free Enterprises. No, they weren't. There was a point when there were some lines about not being able to penetrate something or other. Anyway, I've clearly been overdosing on the Black Dog, as I heard the guy saying euphemism.
We've already done that a couple of times.
Yes, there have been a couple of euphemism moments.
Yeah.
My current world weariness meant the escapism of sinking into Trek was denied me. Due to the fact that I just saw various managers in Picard when he was in the past and refusing to tell the crew anything. And his inspirational, "You're the best crew in the fleet" speech just plain irked me. Then when the present-day senior crew were questioning why Picard had told them about the future experience, I was thinking, yes, one rule in the past and another now. Indeed. Anyway, I shouldn't be too down on managers, as I should remember the one role I had with wee tiny bit of management responsibility that illustrated the need for such contradictory actions. The one time I remembered watching this before was when Q took Picard to primordial France. I had quite a déjà vu emotional reaction that could have been some form of nostalgia. I like the scenery we were shown in these scenes. One thing, though, should there not have been more of a yellowish tinge to everything after Q's comment about the sulphurous smell? And the clear goo that Q pulls out the primordial soup didn't seem right. I like Tasha's line about Q being a letter of the alphabet, as far as she knew.
Yeah.
I'm not at all sure how I feel about Picard joining the poker game at the end. It felt a bit stilted. Well, to be fair, he's not done it before, so it's going to feel a bit weird. Oh well. Thank you, Doreen.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm sort of similarly conflicted about this, I think it's fair to say.
I just hate it.
And we know, okay? Move on. We know you hate its guts, okay? I'm conflicted, Doreen's conflicted. I think David's kind of conflicted as well. It'll be interesting to see what other people make of this. So let's move on to what the Mark made of this, who's sporting on the forum a wonderful Wesley monkey. There's a brand new forum, by the way.
Yes, there is.
Well done to our good friend Catbus Matt for all the hard work he's put in. Basically, if you haven't assigned yourself an avatar on the forum, you get assigned Wesley Crusher as a monkey. Genius. The man is a genius. Anyway, the Mark.
And he says, firstly, thank you for doing the podcast. Our pleasure.
We'll enjoy it.
All good things. It aired in the US on the 23rd of May 94, and I saw it on video shortly after, and the 20 years after it stuck with me this one thing above all. You just don't get it, do you, Jean-Luc? The trial never ends. That is the exploration that awaits you. Not mapping stars and studying nebulae, but charting the unknown possibilities of existence. And with that starburst, the light that was the hopeful Star Trek passed. DS9 would be good, but it would never be as hopeful. And it's kind of odd.
Thought.
Yeah, it's right though.
It's true, but in some ways I can live with that. But carry on.
Yeah. And he says it's kind of odd and miraculous given the overall weakness, I'm being nice, of the 7th season. Yeah, we're not going to disagree with you there.
Weakness is one word for it.
Where creatively the show was spluttering on fumes, and where Moore and Braga had just finished writing a feature film alongside their existing TV duties. And given the constraints required of this particular finale, that all good things somehow managed not only to work, but to be not just the best Star Trek series finale ever, but it may just be Star Trek at its most Trek.
Best finale ever?
Well, think about it.
That's going to be interesting to find out, because I know a lot of people don't like the Deep Space Nine finale. So, I mean, we're way off that yet.
Okay, let me think. Voyager's finale.
Oh, that's just rubbish. Move on. This is better than Voyager's finale, undoubtedly.
original series didn't have one.
No. Dead before its time.
If Generations didn't exist, the original series finale technically would be Star Trek 6, which is fucking awesome. The problem is that Generations undoes Star Trek 6. So if you pretend Generations doesn't exist, which I like to, then the best Trek finale is Star Trek 6.
Interesting thought. Carry on.
To get back to the marked feedback, he says, Tapestry, which is a brilliant prelude to All Good Things, only Picard sees and interacts with Q in these last 2 instalments. Q is trying to help Picard see things differently and to change his destiny, first on a personal level, Tapestry, and then on a major cosmic level, All Good Things. If Tapestry was the practice quiz, All Good Things was the final exam. Actually, I can see the links between those 2 episodes, actually. It's only Picard affected in both.
Yes, Tapestry wasn't a series ender.
No.
So therefore it didn't matter that it only affected Picard. I think that's the thing.
Yeah.
It's a gut punch because all our characters should be affected by this and they're not.
No. In terms of pure fun, the scenes in the future are the episodes most enjoyable. No. They make me want to punch people. Sorry, anyway. Because they give us entertaining glimpses of a possible future for all the characters, as Picard embarks on the classic storytelling mission of getting the band back together for one last concert tour. You cannot compare this to the fucking Blues Brothers. The Blues Brothers is awesome.
Carry on.
Sorry.
I keep having to poke her with a stick.
Sorry.
For now. Euphemism.
As long as it's not a fugly bollock, we're fine.
I shan't be poking you with my fugly bollock. No. I've been told that's not appealing.
He says it's like doing the years later reunion show before the show actually ends. It's amusing to see the versions of all the characters who are grumpier and more crotchety, particularly Patrick Stewart's take on the old and defensive Picard. Now that I do like.
Good, yes.
That is good. The story's notion of future Data is pretty much perfect. Data as a professor at Cambridge, with very bad artificial streak of grey hair and a snarky housekeeper who tells him how ridiculous it looks, is laid-back comedy gold that feels like the right epilogue for this character, and far more so than the hollowly unfortunate one we got in that film. To change gears, which the episode itself does frequently without warning, there's also the matter of Picard's transition into the past timeline circa encounter at Farpoint. These scenes also contain nods for long-time fans, like the inclusion of O'Brien in a red uniform, and the more magnified inquisitive personality of Data, and boy did that mellow significantly after the first season. And somewhere within this time jump mess lies the brilliance of All Good Things. It has all these character touches and details for the fans, but they never get in the way of the intricately plotted story being told. Indeed, in many cases they are in the service of that plot, involving the mysterious space anomaly forming in the Devon system in the Romulan neutral zone. This anomaly is first established in the present timeline, and Picard uses this knowledge to investigate the possibility of its connections in the other 2 timelines. But Picard still isn't able to solve the mystery, particularly since the anomaly doesn't exist in the future, and for some reason is much larger in the past than the present. This is where Q provides the large and revelatory hint that for my money provides the most intriguing scene in the episode. He takes Picard eons into the past on Earth, where life is about to begin in a primordial soup. But in this past the anomaly has grown so large that it occupies the entire Alpha Quadrant. This scene is simultaneously haunting and funny. Q walks Picard to the moment life is supposed to begin on Earth, but instead, oh, nothing happened. See what you've done? This sort of larger-than-life concept is on a scale that TNG tended to avoid most of its run, but pays off here, and especially is filtered through Q's cynical detachment, and the tone of the scene feels right. Ultimately, the Devon system sci-fi anomaly at the centre of All Good Things is the very typical vein of absurd TNG technobabble, and make no mistake, this episode doesn't scrimp on the bullshit jargon. Yeah, I know. It's one of the reasons I hate it. But the details are so well thought out, the stakes are so elevated, and the plot services characters so well that technobabble works in spite of its arbitrary nature. There's still a definite gee-whiz factor in the plot converging across the 3 time periods. I'm glad there was for you. I've said in the past that the distilled essence of a lot of TNG, if you put aside all the usual Roddenberry tropes of an involved, peaceful human philosophy seeking out new life, is about telling stories that show in detail its characters' methodological processes of solving technical problems. All Good Things is like an embodiment of that notion. Here is the ultimate technical brainbuster for Picard. figure out what's happening in the Devron system and why and how it connects through all 3 time periods. Picard and Q have a closing discussion that's the classic examination of Star Trek themes, but in a decidedly TNG way, where the themes emphasise the thinking that goes beyond our idea of linear existence, rather than the more TOS-like humanistic philosophical ideas. Really, All Good Things works well, not simply for all the reasons I've already mentioned, but because it's simply the right ending for the series. No. Earlier in the episode, the writers had Q mocking Picard for spending so much time on trivial matters like Data's quest for humanity or Riker's career aspirations. Now, that last one, Q's right. Rather than the more important things like stretching the boundaries of conventional thinking when it comes to the very nature of existence. In some ways, this and the best of both worlds are the reason I consider a TNG a great series. And over the last couple of decades, I have wished that the last we saw of Picard and Co. was at that poker table in Riker's quarters going out on top. They sure as hell but deserve better than those movies. Still, Season 7 isn't a bad season.
Sorry?
It's not bad, with a few notable stories. It's pure fucking shite. Can't disagree with you there.
Yes.
Star Trek Next Generation as a whole, when it's a moral code to live by, hell, Star Trek Next Generation has done more for me than most religions, while still proving some of the best stories and entertainment of my teenage years. Q-Who, the Pegasus, the Drumhead, the Best of Both Worlds 1 and 2, the Wounded and Measurer Man. If ever I want to test a show, I'll ask, have 7 hours as good and meaningful as that in 7 years? Very few have, and very few will. I agree with those last comments. I wouldn't necessarily name the same episodes, but there aren't that many shows that have run as long that have as many meaningful episodes. And I agree, Season 7 is just shite.
So we all.
Yeah. Thank you. You know I don't agree with you, but thank you for the feedback, and I'm glad you enjoyed the episode.
Cool. Now we have a whole load of MP3 feedback. Yay. Where do we start? Okay, let's go with Fatbone Smith to begin with.
Oh, he's done an MP3.
He's done an MP3, yes.
Hello everyone, here's a question for you. In Season 3, Picard has a mind meld with Sarek, who's suffering from a disease that Vulcans get in old age, which makes them irritable, prone to anger and emotion, and mentally unfocused. And here we have old man Picard suffering from a disease which humans get in old age, which makes them irritable, prone to anger and emotion, and very easily confused. Is there a connection to be made there, or not? You decide. Anyway, All Good Things is what gathers us here today. It's an episode of pluses and minuses, this one. The biggest minus, in my view, is the fact that they pushed the reset button at the end, so the episode may as well not have happened, which is seldom a good thing for a story. And then there's the fact that All Good Things doesn't even fully obey its own rules on how the anomaly works. It's supposed to get smaller going forwards in time. Yet in the future, when the Pasteur turns up in a neutral zone, there's no anomaly. But when the Enterprise turns up later, there is. Which there shouldn't be. Unless it shrinks down to a point and then expands forwards again. But I don't feel cheated by any of those minuses. I don't feel dissatisfied or annoyed. Because there are lots of pluses to the episode as well, and for me the pluses overcome the minuses. I like the relationship that the episode builds between Picard and Q. They start out as their normal adversaries, but by the end there's a kind of détente between them, with Q almost coming across as a sort of mentor figure to Picard, and the two of them having some kind of equilibrium between them. And I like also that Q is treated seriously in this episode, and not as the comedic figure which he all too often became in the Next Generation. The acting in the episode, by everybody, but especially by Patrick Stewart, is really on point. Which it actually really has to be, because while there's some plot to this, and not a lot, and I'll talk about that more in a second, mostly what this episode is the relationships between the characters, and the interactions between the characters. That's the substance of this episode, because when you think about it, not a lot actually happens in All Good Things, not up until the very end at least. If you were to put, all the stuff that happens in the past and watch it all in one go, all the stuff that happens in the present and all the stuff that happens in the future, not an awful lot happens in any one of them. And sort of ingenuity, or maybe legerdemain is a better word, in how this episode is put together, is the constant cutting between time periods creates a sense in which things are happening, and it creates a sense of pace and energy, especially at the end, when the Enterprises go into the anomaly. That's the point when the editing gives a real urgency and dynamism to what is really a technobabble solution to a technobabble problem. But the thing that's constant throughout the episode is the quality of the acting, and the quality of the performances, and the interactions between the characters. The show hits a nostalgia button quite strongly, with Data being how he was in the first season, and Tasha Yar, back from the dead, or back from unemployment, being all competent and efficient. It makes you wonder if she was written like this right from the start, and if she'd stayed on in the show, just how the show might have been different. And she gets the best line in the episode as well, when Worf says, "What is a Q?" It's a letter of the alphabet, as far as I know. And there's all that what if, where are they now type stuff in the future, which is fun and interesting. But in the end, it all comes down to the family, the TNG family, the family with all its difficulties and peculiarities, all coming together in the end to save the universe one last time. And I like that. It's got its flaws, all good things, but I love the ambition of it. I love the reality-bending story of it. I love the cosmic stakes of it. I love the niceness of it. It's a nice ending. It's not dramatic. It's not sad. It's not a cliffhanger. It's just a nice farewell to this family of characters and the ship that they sail the stars in. And that's good enough for me, really. And with that, I'm going to bring this feedback to a close. Well done to the Orgs for completing 4 years of the bOrgCast. Here's to the next 4 years. The sky's the limit. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, sir.
Bye.
Great
Thank
to hear from
you.
Yeah, in terms of the plus points, I agree. The quality of the acting was very good.
Yes, it's like I said, this time round I was able to enjoy certain scenes, and there were things that were very well acted.
The Picard and the Q relationship, very good, and
yes.
could have stood for more of that.
And that whole thing of the heart back to Data,
yeah.
and how he used to be, that was also something I enjoyed.
Yep. A nice link you made there with Sarek.
I'd never thought of that.
Shame the writers didn't make it, really.
Yeah.
Yes. But ultimately, what you pull out as the big problem, which is the reset button.
And the technobabble.
You see, it wouldn't have bothered me if this had been just another Season 7 episode. No. It would have been quite a good just another Season 7 episode.
Well, for Season 7, it would have been awesome, wouldn't it, really, if it wasn't the ending?
But as a finale, it doesn't work. You can't pull a reset button on the finale. I suppose it's in character with Next Gen.
Yeah, it's still bloody annoying, though.
But anyway, thank you, sir. That's excellent feedback. Okay, who's up next? Let's hear from Ravine, a.k.a. Oliver.
Down on Earth, the Orgs have been watching Star Trek. And out in space, Captain Picard is investigating an anomaly. In fact, 3 Captain Picards are investigating an anomaly. And that's very peculiar. Hello, Orgs, it's Ol here. I'm known as Ravine on the forums. You've read out a few of my bits and bobs over the episodes that you've recorded. Thank you very much for doing that, by the way. And I thought that seeing as you'd reached all good things, I would actually get round to feeding back to you with an actual episode feedback. Please do excuse the clangers at the beginning there. I just think it's lovely. So, all good things. I haven't rewatched that specially for this feedback, so this might be a little bit rambling. But I didn't feel the need because, for some reason, I had All Good Things recorded onto VHS on one of those tapes where you just record things on and they end up staying on there for whatever reason. So I've watched it a good few times over the years. And I think it's rather good. I've been listening to your Season 7 coverage with a bit of horror at how bad it all is. I don't remember it being that terrible, but then again, I don't actually remember any of the episodes apart from possibly Lower Decks. So Maybe it's just me. But All Good Things is all good stuff. I love the fact that Patrick Stewart not aging is essentially very helpful to the plot of this one, that he looks exactly the same in all 3 time zones, which turns out to be true to life. But there you go. What else have we got? I particularly like the glimpses of the future that never really happens. Data being Doctor Strange for inexplicable reasons, and Riker becoming an admiral with a grey beard. He's probably evil, thinking about it, seeing as he's an admiral. And the Enterprise getting an extra engine for no adequately explored purpose. Oh, and a big thing on its front. I quite like the big thing on the front, the big zappy thing on the front there. But anyway, yeah, I quite like all that future stuff, ignoring the Worf, Troy nonsense. Yes, least said about that, the better. But yeah, it's all good, and I like the story. I mean, it actually gives Q a purpose beyond just being a jerk. He's actually does stuff, and it explains his interest in the human race, and in Picard in particular, over the years, which I think is sensible. I mean, it's quite nice to know that it actually turns out that there is a
Man waiting in the sky. He'd like to come and meet us, but he thinks he'd blow our minds.
And that really did feel very appropriate given the events of the last few weeks. But yeah, All Good Things. It's a good send off for the show. I think I've been listening to your podcast, and it is a lovely podcast. Thank you so much for doing it. And I remember Star Trek Next Generation being better than it seems that it is. And I think that's partly because we underestimate now how important it was back in the late 80s and early to mid 90s to have Star Trek, because there wasn't anything else. Doctor Who died. There was nothing much coming out of Britain at all. I mean, I think, the 1996 TV movie was the next time the BBC tried to do anything with Doctor Who or with science fiction in general. There was nothing much from the States either, and if you look at the science fiction ecosystem we're living in now, okay, it waxes and wanes, but it wouldn't be there at all if it wasn't for Star Trek The Next Generation, and for that we should all be really thankful. So all good things must come to an end, but sometimes things go on as well and get bigger and better as time goes by. Thank you so much again for the podcast. It's a really nice podcast. I have enjoyed it thoroughly, and I look forward to the rest of your Deep Space Nine coverage. If you're really unlucky, you might get more rambling feedback from time to time from me, but we'll see how it goes. Anyway, nice to speak to you for once. Bye-bye.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Oh, more feedback, please.
Yes.
Especially if it's accompanied by beautiful music like that. That was fantastic.
Yeah.
Chilling out nicely there.
Yeah.
And a nice use of Bowie as well.
Yeah.
Always salute
and
that.
thank you for explaining why Future Riker is a cunt.
He's an admiral. Of course he's a... Yes. Yeah, it all makes sense now.
It does. Thank you.
True to type.
Yes.
Fantastic. I think he got more out of it than we did from memory.
Yes.
But then again, I say my memory of it was a lot rosier than actual the revisitation was, sadly. And I don't think... We've been harsh on season 7, but to be fair, and we'll come on to this later on, the rest of Next Gen actually is a lot better than you remember.
Yes.
It really is just season 7 is a pile of tripe.
And I think that's the problem, because it's the last season.
Yeah,
and the
on
last
a low.
season of Next
Finish
Gen.
on a low, dear. But anyway,
yeah.
More of that later.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
I think it's time we heard from Mr. Matt Dillon.
Cat Bus Matt.
Cat Bus Matt, a.k.a. the IT genius that holds our website together. Fantastic. Let's hear what he has to say.
Star Trek, The Next Generation, beloved throughout the nation, except for Season 7. Season 7's mostly shit. Hello, Orgs, it's me, Cat Bus Matt, and since you have reached the milestone that is the final episode of Star Trek The Next Generation, All Good Things, I thought I should chip in with some feedback. And what better way to celebrate the end of Star Trek The Next Generation than with an episode that contains wibbly space anomalies, time travel, and all sorts of other cheesy tropes. Now here's the thing, I remember absolutely hating this when it was first broadcast, and I haven't actually watched it since it was first broadcast. I remember thinking at the time that it was a really poor send-off. Like, everything was sort of gearing up for this big farewell. It should be monumentous. And at the end of season 7, what we actually got was a bit of a damp squib, I guess. Having watched it now, just recently, in fact, just finished watching it about an hour ago, I don't feel the same. And I wonder if that's because I've watched it in isolation. Because remembering that season 7 is mostly shit, I have kind of not watched it. In fact, as you may have noticed, I haven't dropped you some feedback in quite some time. I just haven't had the time to catch up with Star Trek. So what did I think of the episode in of itself? Fairly interesting story, albeit very hackneyed. Time travel, all hands on deck, swirly thing alert. Patrick Stewart is fantastic. Although, pro tip here, Jean-Luc, if you don't want to come across like you're a raving, senile madman, maybe try phrasing things so that you don't sound like a raving, senile madman. Because you were perfectly happy and normal talking to Geordie when he first dropped up and said hello, but then all of a sudden, no, you're also going a bit mad, and I'm travelling in time. I'm not mad, Are these my feet? Yeah, that kind of reduces your credibility a little bit. I'm just saying. I really like what they did with the 3 time periods, because they were very careful about which crew members appeared in which time period. So you didn't get a lot of repetition. I mean, some things were unavoidable. So you had Data in all 3 time periods. But by placing the past storyline prior to the start of Encounter at Farpoint, you don't have most of the crew on board, which gives O'Brien a chance to step into what would have been Geordie's place, which is fabulous. We don't have to worry about Wesley, we don't have Dr. Crush yet, and of course we don't have Riker yet. So other characters get to kind of step to the fore, so Tasha gets a lot more to do because she's the most senior bridge officer on board the ship at that point. And I like that. I like the fact that Tasha's given one last chance to shine. That was really nice. Really cheeky reuse of footage from Encounter at Farpoint to get around Riker's beardless face issue, because clearly Frakes refused to shave. I mean, come on, it's the last episode. What else are you using that beard for? You'll grow it back. Miserable git. Mind you, he has put on a bit of weight since then, hasn't he? One too many pork pies from the replicator. No, works really well. Like, nice little nod. Like, I love the fact that they've got them all back in the season 1 uniforms, and they've noticed that. They'd also noticed continuity-wise things like O'Brien's pip, that sort of thing. And rather than try and sort of rewrite history a little bit and make things more in line with how the show ended up and canon ended up, they've just gone with it. And I like that. John Delancey, absolutely fabulous, incidentally. He's back on form as fully in control Q, as opposed to the sort of camp, prattling, comedic character that he became. He's actually a threat or potential threat here. And, Picard's acknowledgement of that by saying thank you is a bit of a fabulous moment. So what else do I have to say about this? The 3 nacelled Enterprise, okay, I like the fact that they've acknowledged that the Enterprise would get refit and whatnot, and the whole cloaking device thing as well. That's pretty nice. But it's like slapping a 3rd nacelle on just to make it look a bit futuristic. That's kind of cheeky. Like, ooh, look at Future Enterprise. How can you tell it's got 3 nacelles? Right, well, what does that 3rd nacelle do? Because I'm pretty sure that the 2 nacelle configuration is all that's really required for warp travel. So, what's that 3rd nacelle do? You don't know, do you? You don't know, do you guys? It's just, woo, fast and spiffy. But it is kind of a nice design, and it's nice to see it, And it's also got some knobbly bits on the front, I noticed at the last minute. So I'm not sure what those knobbly bits are supposed to do. I'm sure Org will tell us as he gets anal about spaceships. What was the point of that scene where Picard can't find his way to 10 forward? It really did feel like a filler scene. There were a few little moments like that. It just felt like filler for the sake of filler. But overall, in isolation, it's a nice little feature length. I suspect, though, that if I'd watched it at the end of the whole watch like you done, I'd be thinking of it a lot less kindly. Oh yeah, that was the thing I was going to mention before I go. Geordie apparently, they've just slipped that in. Geordie apparently married Leah Brahms. Leah Brahms married the guy that hollow stalked her and sort of perved on her from afar. What? What would possess her to do that? Unless, of course, he married the holographic Leah Brahms and he's just not told anyone. Because, hey, by this point in time, we should have mobile holographic emitters, right? So, who knows? Anyway, right, I've really overrun here. Thanks very much for all of the hard work that you guys do for Geek Planet Online and for your audience. Thanks for a great show, which does actually genuinely keep me company. Whenever I'm doing site work, I normally catch up with the bOrgCast and sit and listen to you guys while I'm sort of getting on with coding and all sorts of things. So thank you for everything that you do and keep up the good work. Looking forward to ploughing ahead to a dedicated Deep Space Nine cast. Cheery bye.
Bye. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Interesting point about Leah Brahms.
Yes, that's headcanon. He married the holographic one.
With a mobile emitter. The only thing that doesn't work, unfortunately, is the children, clearly. Unless they're holograms as well. Bizarre.
Yeah. Brent is going to be the first hologrammatic Starfleet cadet.
Three nasals wrong. Yes. No, say no more. Frakes couldn't shave the beard because literally he was filming Generations in a week and he needed a beard for that. So it would have been a very slovenly beard, more of a sort of 9 o'clock shadow. So that wasn't going to work. That's why you don't see him without a beard. Yeah, you're right. Tasha as the senior bridge officer is nice, and she's better in this than she has been for the rest of the series, such appearances as she made.
Yeah. John Delancey as Q is great, you're right. He is on his proper form as opposed to his unnecessarily comedic form. And that does make a difference.
And Patrick Stewart, as ever, is fantastic. Gives his all.
Yeah. That's my feet.
And setting this prior to Encounter at Farpoint, smart move as well. Yeah. So I agree with all your plus points, and it's quite true, I think, that this, in some ways, coming at the end of Season 7, which is awful, I don't know, it just kicks you in the face, because it's like, come on, you couldn't even manage a finale that wasn't a reset button.
Yeah.
You buggers.
And that wasn't full of unnecessary parallel universe and technobabble. Yeah.
Hey-hoo! Okay, next we hear a fellow podcaster from Space Dock Jury. More of which later. I won't go over the top with this, unlike certain people. Mr. Andy Palastides.
Hello, guys. I know I'm not one for feeding back generally. I apologise. I shall endeavour to do so more often now. Deep Space Nine is getting good. But I couldn't let The Next Generation end without just firing off a quick bit of feedback to just kind of sum up my thoughts both of The Next Generation and All Good Things. The Next Generation was my Star Trek. It was what I grew up with, and with films and, had all those when I was a kid. But, Next Generation was mine in that sense. I was just at the right age where it hit. And revisiting it all with you guys throughout the broadcast, we can see now that it's not perfect. But what is perfect? And it didn't have to be perfect. This Star Trek came out at a time when there was no real science fiction on TV, so this was kind of like just figuring out what works, what doesn't work. And in a strange way, All Good Things was just the perfect summation of the series that was The Next Generation. It is not, in my opinion, the best episode of The Next Generation. It doesn't even have, the best bits. But it just sums up what The Next Generation was so well, I think. You have this very intelligent story of this time travelling. This is addressing issues, this whole the way Picard is perceived. Once it's announced that he has the I can't remember what the fancy name of it is, but fundamentally Alzheimer's. And they start thinking that he's just starting to lose his mind. The way Q was weaved into the story was incredibly intelligent, and I love how it bookends both Encounter at Farpoint and All Good Things. It's just so nice to just go back to the beginning. Even the attention to detail when they go back to the that little bit before Encounter at Farpoint, and you just get a little glimpse of him coming aboard for the first time at McKinley Station, and Tashi Albima. It's nice. I mean, they had such fantastic attention to detail, going back to those original costumes, which really do look dated compared to, I suppose we say the more modern uniforms they're wearing in Season 7. Slight side note here, thanks to Super Crikey Vision, as Jim Moon would call it, I couldn't help but notice with Data when he's wearing the Season 1 uniform, a little bit of chest hair poking out there. Quite, disconcerting. Don't remember that being there before. But, well, that's Super Crikey Vision for you. I guess it was during the period where he was experimenting with hair growth. But yes, just all good things. If there was no more Next Generation after that, if none of the movies happened, if All Good Things was it, there was nothing more from Next Generation, I think I'd be okay with that. That was a really nice sign-off. It certainly was so much better than what we'd had for Season 7, and reminded us just how good the Next Generation could be. That final scene is perfection, with it just sums it up beautifully with that long shot of the Enterprise going off. To be honest, if you take First Contact aside, this could have quite happily been the end of the Next Generation, and it probably would have been better for it. And again, not wanting to kind of ruin things for down the line, I think this was probably the best season ending that we got out of Star Trek. I don't remember one from DS9 being particularly good. Certainly the one with Voyager wasn't good anyway. And oh god, the abortion that was the Enterprise's ending. No. At least with the Next Generation, it did end with a good high. So yeah, that's enough of me infusing about all good things. I am sorry to see the Next Generation come to a close, but I'm glad it managed to end well. And I think that's it. I shall endeavour to feed back more now we're into the... all of Deep Space Nine was good, but certainly the meat and potatoes, shall we say. And anyway, I look forward to hearing everyone else's thoughts, and I will see you all later. TTFN.
So, 5-card stud, nothing wild. And the sky's the limit.
That final scene is good. There's no two ways about it.
The final scene is, yes.
The original costumes do look dated in an interesting sort of way, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got so used to the ones with the higher collars. Yeah, thank you for that, sir.
Thank you.
Glad you enjoyed it more than we did.
Yeah.
I can't remember. I can remember the Voyager one being awful. Never saw the Enterprise one.
No.
But the Deep Space Nine one is going to be very interesting when we get there, because I do remember there was some shortfalls in it, but I also remember there was some good stuff as well, so we shall see.
For the Deep Space Nine one, when I saw it at the time, I liked what's perhaps, because I don't want to be spoilery, what's perhaps described as the central tenet, but there were aspects I had issues with.
Yeah, I think there were details that weren't so good, but generally I think it was a better...
Yeah.
But that's the way I remember it.
Okay, that was the same. But that was as somebody watching it as it aired.
Mm-hmm. A long time ago. So it will be interesting to see how we find it. When will it be? 3 years' time? 2 years' time? When? 3 years' time, I think.
Okay.
Let's find out what Drew and Tracy made of the second half, having fed back on the first half.
So that was part 2 then?
It was indeed.
I've got to say, I really enjoyed that.
Well, the fact that you let the ending title sequence music play out and you was doing a bit of like conducting, it kind of reinforced how much you enjoyed that.
But we're never going to see Next Generation again. Now we're down to the last episode.
Fluffy can, you can just rewatch that one again.
Yeah, okay. Actually, you say that, but I remember the first time I saw this was when we was at Pages, when they played the double one, and it was like one of these American ones, so it was well before it was over here.
Yeah.
And I just remember watching it in a full pub, all beard up, and just everyone like, cheering and everything, especially the bit when the Enterprise uncloaks and says to Pasteur, or doesn't say to Pasteur. It's a little bit difficult for me to divorce that feeling the first time I've seen it whenever I've seen it again, so I've always avoided it. This is actually the third time I've ever seen it. I remember watching it when it was on British TV again, and then I've never watched it again purely because I knew that it would never be as good as that. But I loved it.
Yeah,
I
good.
really enjoyed this.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was a real kind of intense episode, and I loved the way they were kind of flipping back and forth,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
the continuity of it. I just thought it was really cleverly done, and it was really engrossing. And also, I think because I knew that this was the last one, I really wanted to kind of pay attention and kind of absorb what was happening. I really enjoyed it. Yeah.
We liked when the young Riker was there. Very cleverly done, wasn't it? So he didn't have to shave
Yeah.
off his beard. They
These
just
two
used the clip.
episodes were like the many changing faces of Riker, weren't they? It was
yeah.
just ridiculous.
Oh yeah, you had a good laugh when you first come up.
And he
And
was
he's-
all grey, and he was an admiral.
Uh-huh.
And I was just like, yeah, you've not aged well, son. Not at all. We did like seeing Andreas Katsu playing... is it
Katsoulis, yeah.
Tumlock?
Tomahawk.
Oh, was it Tomahawk? I've wrote his name down as Tumlock, so
Yeah.
so I obviously had
Yeah,
that one.
oh, the
But yeah, that was
mighty,
good
yes.
to hear him. You could
Yes,
tell it was him
excellent.
instantly. And although he's a
Yeah.
Romulan and he's like, psst, we kind of liked him.
Oh, he's just
because
brilliant,
we
isn't
like
he?
him,
Yeah.
don't we? Yeah, so that was good to see. Kind of knew that Troy was going to have died, and that was going to be like a bone of contention between
Worf and Riker,
yeah, but not really that surprised. But yeah, but I really enjoyed this. You kept banging on about,
Yes.
these are the last 2 episodes. We've got to watch them.
I know.
La,
I
la,
just
la.
got such a fond place in my heart. I just
nice.
absolutely love these last 2 episodes. I think it's a really good way to end the series
Yeah.
as well when they're
I
all
did
around
too.
the poker table. It's great.
I did too. There was a lot of pyjama scenes in this, but very few shoulder pads for me. So it kind of, stepped away from the whole other moaning that I've done in all the other episodes
Yeah.
because, where's the flowers in the bed and where's the shoulder pads?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I really enjoyed it. Kind of sad that it's done and dusted, but not at the same time because it was getting a bit stupid.
I know, I just, once again say it, I can't believe how bad Series 7 is. I think the main surprise is because I know that I love this one, and it's the only one I really, really know from Series 7, and just the rest are so bad. It's
Yeah.
just...
So for me,
it's a good ender, though. It's a good end.
It is
to
a
the
very good
series.
end. For me, I'm kind of glad to take a break now from Next Generation because it was so bad. And as you say, you end on a high because this was so good, and it kind of is going to give me something endearing to remember it by. But a break is needed. Let's kind of carry on and find something new. Looking forward to the films now, actually.
Yeah. well, First Contact, at least.
I like him. I like Generations.
Well,
watched it.
we get to that
Yeah,
when we
anyway.
get to that.
So let's leave it there then, shall we?
Okay.
Lovely. Thank you very much. Take it easy, guys. Talk to you later. Bye.
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 I love
Thank you,
that.
guys.
You're kind of sad, but not because it was getting a bit stupid.
Yeah, it
yeah.
was.
It
Getting
was.
a bit stupid.
It was.
Yes. It must have been amazing watching this in pages. The
Oh,
atmosphere must have been just incredible. I mean, we watched Trials and Tribulations
We did.
in pages. That was an atmosphere.
It
and a
was
half.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed it, guys.
Yes. And you're right that Andreas Katsoulis is awesome.
Yes. No, that's the best scene in the entire story by far, isn't it? Okay, thanks, guys. And yes, we will be touching on the movies very shortly.
Yeah.
At least the first one. Right. We need to finish with the Pie Man, do we not?
Yeah.
Hello, Orgs. Parry here to talk about all good things. Yeah, we're finally at the last episode of The Next Generation, and Season 7's finished, Next Gen's finished, and it's worth looking back over the whole series as well. But first I'm going to talk about the episode. Now, I know there's some people who don't like this episode, but personally I think it's great. I originally saw it at a convention. They were actually billing it as sort of showing it over their big summer kind of convention, which I couldn't afford to go to. I could only go to these sort of wee sort of Sunday kind of things that they did. And they got the episode early and decided to just show it. So it was a pleasant surprise, and I got to watch All Good Things way before anyone else, which was awesome. So, what do I think of the story? The story's a wee bit, I suppose you could argue it's not so substantial, but in reality it's a really nice concept. It's very next gen, and this is kind of what I like. The episode is unmistakably Star Trek The Next Generation. I really like the way it does refer back to Encounter at Farpoint, with just in general revisiting the trial that they were put on initially. It's a nice bookend to the series, as well as actually being a fairly decent story, particularly as things slowly come together and Picard slowly works out what's happening. Now, yes, it is Picard-centric, but you can never really go wrong setting Patrick Stewart up and watching him go. And indeed, I think he does a particularly good job here, particularly with the aged Picard. It's a lot of the acting is rather than a makeup, although I'm sure with your pin-sharp crikey vision you'll be able to see if there is more makeup. It looked like there was a little, but not much. But a lot of it's in speech, in the way he moves around and that sort of thing. I think it really convinces you that he's much older than he is when you see him in sort of the present day, as it were, in the Season 7 Next Gen. And I like that. I like the idea of the trial not ending. And, okay, there is one bit which is self-indulgently meta. When Q comes up with the reasons why they're being found guilty, it does seem a lot like criticisms of Next Gen that he's coming out with. And it's almost Picard's got to defend the TV series from the critics in the form of the Q continuum, which I actually found quite fun, but I could see that grating on some people, so I can understand if that's the sort of thing you don't like. But yeah, overall, while it wasn't action-packed by any stretch of the imagination, I just thought it was a really good story, a neat sci-fi concept. Okay, a bobbin sci-fi concept as well, I'll give it. You know, it's in essence, Picard should never be able to see the rift in the future, but he has to, obviously, in order to actually do anything with it. Other things that I liked the idea that the crew all got bitter and old and separated. Now, obviously that doesn't happen, but again, there's bits that you like where they've made efforts. There's reset and dress sets. We get a whole 3 new spaceships. Well, 2.5. We get the Negvar, we get the not the Pasteur, which is an Olympic class, and of course we get the refitted Enterprise, the 3 nacelled with a huge phaser cannon, as it's called in Star Trek Online, the Galaxy X Dreadnought class, and that's a glorious scene. The sort of few bits of action we do get are actually really good fun, both the Pasteur being attacked and then the Enterprise coming to its rescue. But again, we have the Pasteur's bridge, we have alternate universe uniforms, which they made up a good few of. You know, it's not just like we've got sort of a few hero casts. There's actually quite a few, not many, but enough that you feel the effort's been made. And yeah, Data's got a comedy housekeeper, which I quite liked. Again, things that I know might grate on people, and overall I just really like the way the episode ties in. There's a lovely touch to it, where by the end of the episode, when Picard sits down to the poker game, and it kind of pans away, I always like that as kind of an opposite to the opening of Encounter at Farpoint. If you remember back, rather than rewatch it, because who would, the Encounter at Farpoint starts off with a fly up to the Enterprise, and we almost fly into the ship, to focus in on Picard, and so I quite like the way that at the end we pan away from Picard and pan out to the ship, and the ship flies off into the distance. In truth, this is a really good way to end a series, and indeed the first real end of a TV series that Star Trek got. Only other previous last episode was Turnabout Intruder. How it stands up to the rest of the season finales? Well, let's not talk about These Are the Voyages at all, the Enterprise finale. The Deep Space Nine finale I don't remember that well, but I'd have to watch it. I do seem to remember thinking Deep Space Nine finale was more fun and had a lot more in it. But I thought this one was a bit more sentimental and, frankly, a wee bit of fan service, but in a good way. And the Voyager finale, again, I kind of found a bit just meh, but that's Voyager for you. So, yeah, overall, I thought as a 2-part episode, it was a really good story and really worth watching. Now, Next Gen is a Season 7. How can we sum up Season 7? Definitely barrels being scraped, but it was nice that they put this effort into the last episode. You know, yes, you could almost tell that the rest of Season 7 was basically cut because people were working on this and Generations. And, well, Generations maybe not so much, but at least we got this. Next Gen as a whole, I think rewatching it's been really interesting because in some ways a lot of the criticism which we get of Next Generation is quite unfounded. If you look at it, a lot of the things was it was very episodic, it all did ruffle it was the reset buttons were hit at the end of the episode, that sort of thing, and actually watching it, the series had quite a lot of continuity. Okay, it wasn't an arc plot. The story's wrapped up at the end of each episode, although in some ways not always cleanly. For example, we did have what's almost a 3-part story in Best of Both Worlds 1 and 2 and Family. And we get things being called back. There's a whole Klingon arc that kind of goes through it. Okay, when you look at it, it's probably something like 6 episodes or so, but you do get from Gowron becoming Chancellor through the Klingon Civil War. There's all these little touches in this story which I think are in the series, which I think are really interesting. Okay, largely the characters don't develop in this so much as Councillor Troy is still Councillor Troy at the end. Okay, she's now a commander, she wears a proper uniform, and she gets to command the bridge now and again, but overall, yeah, she's still roughly the same character. But that said, I think the series gets criticised for a lot of things which actually Voyager did, and you could almost think Voyager was made from a misconstrued idea of what Next Generation actually was. But that's an interesting thought. As a final thought on all good things, though, because I'm yo-yoing about and not doing anything in particular order, because I've got a bit more time and a bit more leeway to just jabber about. So the other thing I liked, when they did Season 1, I did like the way they tried to redress the set. Now, watching it, I picked up at least the captain's chair was wrong, because you didn't have these flip-out panels. But I did like the fact that, again, they went to the effort to make the bridge look as much like it did in Season 1 as possible. They dug out all the old uniforms, that sort of thing. I thought it was really good. And, yes, okay, so in order to have beardless Riker effectively only appears in stock footage. Not even from Encounter at Farpoint stock footage, which I found a bit funny. But that all does sort of make me chortle. There's no Wesley, because they managed to put a whole chunk of... They were quite fortunate that a whole chunk of people were in Farpoint Station. So yeah, overall, I think Next Generation gets a lot of unfair criticism as to its episodicness, and in fact, I could see this being a potential template for a new series, because there's enough arc to tie it together without it being so arc heavy it puts off new viewers, and I think that's something which a lot of modern telly misses. So all that remains for me to say is do keep up the good work. I'm really enjoying the podcast. It's been great to go through all of Next Generation, aside from Season 1, and hopefully it'll be equally as good to go through all of Deep Space Nine. So until the next episode, bye for now.
Bye, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Woo! Not action-packed is one of the criticisms we have of the episode, it has to be said. Q's critiques of the series.
Yeah, that's
a nice thing. I'm going to say all the Q stuff, really enjoy.
Yeah.
Unlike in Character at Farpoint, where there's far too much Q stuff, actually. This one, actually, all the Q stuff is good.
It's on point, isn't it?
Yeah. Being Picard-centric is both its strength, because he's an excellent actor,
yeah,
but also its weakness, because you don't feel like the other characters have been given a decent send-off, because it never happened to them, except for the final scene. The final scene is good.
Yes.
But you can't judge it on the final scene, can you? Okay, shall we move on to what we thought of the series as a whole, then?
Yes.
I mean, obviously, Season 7 is a crushing disappointment. There's no two ways about it.
Yeah,
I'd forgotten just how bad it was.
So had I, yeah.
So that's the downside. On the upside, however, obviously we're redoing Season 1 as we go along, so I can't really comment on that. But I do remember when I did it for Blessed Other Geek, my column that got this all started on geekplanetonline. I do remember there being a surprisingly number of episodes that aren't too bad, actually. I mean, there are some really awful ones.
Yeah.
But they're not all bad, and some are actually quite good. I mean, we have covered a couple of the good ones already, actually. So, but also, Season 2 is actually better than you remember. Yes, it finishes badly. There's no two ways about it. Shades of Crap is awful.
Yeah.
But there are some really good episodes in Season 2. And then from Season 3, Season 4... both excellent seasons, loads of really classic episodes, and the point that both Andy and Noel were making about this being the only sci-fi at the time, and it, seasons 3 and 4, if we only had those, we'd have some of the best sci-fi around. There are some good episodes in 5, but we did have that beige phase, which seemed to last forever. Season 6, mixed bag, some really bad ones, some really good ones.
Season 6 has got some of the best episodes.
Yeah. And had they finished on Season 6...
That would have been a good ending.
And finished with All Good Things, even though you don't like All Good Things, if you finished with that rather than Bloody Descent, which was a waste of time, to be honest, I think we'd have far fonder memories of TNG looking back, having done this.
Yeah, I think doing Season 7 was a mistake.
Big mistake.
Really badly, because Season 6, although there were some bad episodes, there were some fantastic episodes.
So finish with Season 6, let Deep Space Nine have at least a season on its own before starting Voyager, and they'd had a lot more time to prepare Generations and make it better than it was. Yeah.
My feelings of Next Gen as a whole... although some characters don't get much development, others do.
Well, there's not very many that do. I mean, it was interesting, Pori making the point, there really isn't much character development. It's frustrating, particularly in Season 7, where you think they could have taken some risks
could have done.
And they didn't want to, because they wanted them to be the same in the movies. And it's like, no.
Yeah.
No, let's have some development.
But, I mean, the characters themselves are enjoyable characters.
Yeah, for the most part. They gel relatively quickly and become quite, warm. It's that whole family feel. I mean, we've been watching the extras on the Season 7 disc, and constantly they're making the point that this was a very family-based series, that all the actors got on, and that does come across. I mean, and there is that warmth to it all. I mean, it is, in some way, a sci-fi sitcom, where you've got to love the character. No one loves the characters, and it's this sort of old-fashioned Cheers type sitcom where there's no development. It's a reset button every time. So there is something to be said for that.
I mean, that was of its time. I mean, you can't.
Yeah,
I don't think it's fair.
In some ways, yes, because television has moved on, and in some ways it is too. I think, and again, Purry makes this point. It is too arc-based.
Yes,
in particular, look at Modern Who. And, it's very hard to watch in isolation an episode of Modern Who because it...
Too archy.
Far too archy.
Yeah.
God said to Noah, you've got to build an archy. Sorry.
We're not having that.
No, okay.
Fuck off, no.
No archy.
No. Overall, Next Gen as a series, I think is still really good. Overall, still very much worth watching.
Taken as a whole, yeah.
But
stop at season 6.
Stop at season 6. Do my version of a rewatch where you don't watch the shit episodes.
Although having said that, Lower Decks is still worth having.
Yeah. So you'd watch the odd bit of season 7, but not very many. Mostly you'd stop at season 6, and there are other episodes here and there in each season which are absolute fucking clangers that you're not going to bother with. But overall, you think about, the amount of effort and hours that went into 7 seasons, and it's like the Mark said, there are, compared to a lot of other things that have gone for that many seasons, the overall quality is still very, very high.
Yep. I think we need to do our final tribute.
Do we?
We have warned you about this, folks. So feel free, if you can't stand our terrible karaoke singing, to stick the cotton wool in your ears for the next couple of minutes as we do our take on the amazing Adam Buxton Star Trek song. And thank you again to Drew for doing the backing track for this.
Thank you.
Star Trek, the next generation. You live throughout the nation. You're my favourite show. I've seen every episode, you're lucky. You don't have to wait for buses. You just step into the transporter and off you boldly go. Mr. Wolf's my favourite person, 'cause he's very strong and large. Jean-Luc Picard is fair but hard. He has to be 'cause he's in charge. When I found out that it was ending, I wrote them all a letter to say they had to die. They sent policemen round to see me now. My house is rather empty, 'cause you're gone and left me. Where did you boldly go? Where did you boldly go? Where did you boldly go? Where did you boldly go?
Bastards!
Sorry about that. We did threaten that, and we had to follow through, so to speak. Well, in more ways than one. Thank you to everybody who's contributed. We were overwhelmed this time. Thank you, everybody. It's been fantastic. Next time, bOrgCast 8.1. Hey! We'll be recording on Thursday the 18th of February. And we'll be turning over to Deep Space Nine and covering the first 2 parts of Season 3 of Deep Space Nine. Search Parts 1 and 2, or the fallout from the Jem'Hadar and their bruising encounter with the Dominion. There's some real wonderful stuff to look forward to here, guys. So Search Parts 1 and 2, 18th of February. We'd really love to hear what you make of those. But I think it's probably time for a plug.
Let's get anal about spaceships.
The podcast with my good friends Andy Plastides and Lee Metcalf.
Three men.
I'm Peter.
I'm Andy.
And I'm Lee.
The multiverse of sci-fi's finest spacecraft.
USS Defiant.
The USS Discovery.
The SSV Normandy 2.
Cylon Base Star.
The Icarus II.
The White Star.
Slave 1.
Excelsior.
The Fiery Phoenix.
Liberator.
The Battlestar Pegasus.
The Millennium Falcon.
X-Bomber.
The Nostromo.
The Event Horizon.
NSCA Protector.
The Enterprise. It doesn't matter which one, anyone, Let's save a D.
But which ones can claim to be the greatest ships ever?
My ship?
My ship.
No, my ship.
Welcome to Space Doc Jury. Space Doc Jury is a production for geekplanetonline.com.
So that's one long argument, which you're more than welcome to take part in. We have a Facebook site, and episodes are going up on the new shiny Geek Planet Online site as we speak. The first episode's up.
Bear in mind, the first episode, because it's a pilot, is episode 0.
Yes. Also, you may be interested to know that there's going to be a certain amount of crossover between The Search and what we'll be covering in what is effectively episode 2 of Space Dot Jury. But anyway, I won't say any more than that because I don't want to do any spoilers. Cool! Thank you guys, we'll catch you next time. Cheery bye!
Bye!
Whatever happened to Leon Trotsky? He got an ice pick that made his ears burn.
The bOrgCast is brought to you by the lovely people at geekplanetonline.com.
Music at the beginning of this podcast was written and performed by Adam Buxton and is used with his kind permission. All music referenced is for illustrative purposes only and no copyright infringement is intended.
To contact us, you can use the forums at geekplanetonline.com.
Visit our Tumblr site at bOrgCast.tumblr.com where you'll find images accompanying the episodes discussed in this cast.
Send email messages or MP3s to bOrgCast@geekplanetonline.com.
Or you can contact us via Twitter on rev_org or bOrgCastAmmo. Hashtag bOrgCast.
Shut it down!